some signs that we're not alone in the universe. The universe is a massive place. It's often been said that there's more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. So, it's a big place. And to think that we're the only intelligent species in the entire cosmos is difficult to understand. And the discovery that's just been announced is that there's something called dimethyl sulfide, which is an element made of hydrogen, carbon and sulfur, which at the moment we think the only possible way that could be there is through some form of primitive living organisms.
So this is because it's a very complicated gas to sort of combine together. There's no way there could be some sort of volcano churning this stuff out. It has to be some sort of biological life form as the most likely explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. There are other elements, but this particular element, dimethyl sulfide, at the moment, the only process we know of that can produce it is life. Now, of course, we're still in early stages of this discovery, and we still need to do a lot of work to see if there's any other processes we can identify that can produce it. But for now, the only thing we know of is life, and so the only explanation, therefore, is that it's life. But it is still early days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very, very good afternoon to you on this beautiful, beautiful sunny afternoon. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Coming up on the show today...
You can't have true national security without food security.
Well, they're hiking taxes on these family farms. That's a big issue here.
That's right, and that's a problem. I mean,
Yeah, in an exclusive sit-down interview with GB News, Donald Trump's Secretary of State for Agriculture has slammed Keir Starmer's inheritance tax raid on British farmers, and firebrand Brooke Rollins called them a problem that could close British farms, and we'll get full reaction from British farmers throughout today's show. And meanwhile, Nissan has announced that they are to cut nearly 20,000 jobs globally. But could the Sunderland plant be under threat? Or actually, could there be a Brexit bonus? We'll get the latest on this developing story throughout the show. And Reform UK is set to open its very first British pub, and that's the Talbot in Blackpool, as you can see on your screens. Now, with politics and pubs being two of GB News' viewers' very top hobbies, today I'll be joined by the pub's owners to ask them, do you only serve gammon? What about a pint of Remainer tears? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show, and I hope you enjoyed your early tease there of Aaron Armstrong. A couple of technical gremlins. We've got an action-packed show. British farmers are bracing themselves for the very, very worst when Donald Trump announced his trade deal with Keir Starmer. They were fearing floods of British beef, chlorinated chicken and cheap ethanol coming into Britain. But have British farmers found an unlikely ally in the firebrand Agriculture Secretary of State for America, Brooke Rollins? She sat down with Chris Hope, our political editor, and it appears she is on British farmers' side, saying Labour's tax raid could damage our farming industry. British farmers should always be put first, and food sovereignty is a key issue. Plus, could there be a Brexit bonus at the Nissan plant? Remember, the Nissan plant, Remain has told us, would definitely leave if we left the European Union. That didn't happen. But Trump's tariffs could mean that production is upped at Sunderland as they look to cut jobs globally. We've got that, plus the Reform pub, the first of its kind in Britain. Would you go to a Reform-branded boozer where they serve pints and talk about politics? The first of its kind. I'll be joined by the landlords who are looking to put the politics into your pint. What an action-packed show. Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. But that's your headlines, and here he is again, that man, Aaron Armstrong.
Hello there, or should I say hello again. Thank you very much indeed, Martin. Our top stories, this breaking news. Conservative MP Patrick Spencer has been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. The Member of Parliament for Central Suffolk and North Ipswich is accused of the attacks which are alleged to have happened at the Groucho Club in central London in August 2023. Now, in a statement, the Metropolitan Police said it had issued the charges related to 2 women. Mr Spencer will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 16th of June. A man who spent 38 years in jail for a notorious murder in the 1980s has been freed by the Court of Appeal. 68-year-old Peter Sullivan was jailed for life in 1987 for murdering Diane Sindel in Birkenhead. Well, new DNA evidence showed that he was not the killer. Mr Sullivan appeared on video link from HMP Wakefield. He sobbed upon hearing his conviction when he heard it would be quashed. Well, the 21-year-old Diane Sindel was beaten and raped and left in an alleyway back in 1986. In a statement read by his lawyer, Peter Sullivan described his conviction and imprisonment as very wrong, but says he's not angry or bitter. It brings to an end what is thought to be the longest-running miscarriage of justice in British history.
He has endured nearly 40 years in a Category A prison for a truly horrific crime that he did not commit. Today, justice has been at last served and his conviction has been quashed. Since his conviction in 1987, Peter has maintained his innocence. Peter's consistent insistence that he wasn't guilty has been supported by us at Switolski's, and today we are one step closer to justice for Peter. While we are overjoyed that Peter's innocence has been recognised, we remain acutely aware of the lasting impact caused by this horrific crime in 1986.
21-year-old man's been arrested over suspected arson attacks on 2 properties linked to the Prime Minister. The Metropolitan Police say the suspect was arrested in the early hours of this morning on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life. It follows a fire at the Prime Minister's private home, which he rents out in North London in the early hours of yesterday. On Sunday, emergency services were called to a small fire at the front door of a house converted into flats in Islington, which is also linked to Sir Keir Starmer. One person was assisted to safety via a staircase by firefighters. Police are looking at a car fire as well as part of the investigation. Counter-terrorism police involved. They're treating it as suspicious and investigating whether they are linked. Some breaking news for you. 300 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel in 5 small boats today. It comes a day after 600 made the illegal journey yesterday. Since Sunday, some 1,200 migrants have crossed the Channel. Just yesterday, the government unveiled plans to significantly cut net migration. That was announced in a white paper in the House of Commons by the Home Secretary. Of course, net migration different to illegal crossings. The Labour government promised to take back control of the UK's borders. US President Donald Trump is in Saudi Arabia for the first major diplomatic trip of his second term of office, where he has met the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Donald Trump is hoping to secure new economic deals in the Middle East worth, well, according to him, up to $1 trillion. Elon Musk is there. He will visit Riyadh, Doha and Abu Dhabi as part of a 4-day tour, which will last throughout this week. He's had a lavish lunch with the Crown Prince, Elon Musk in attendance, as I mentioned. The US leader hoping to focus on big investments in the region, but very notably, no visit on this trip to Israel. It comes amid rumours of a falling out with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Kim Kardashian has been giving evidence to a court in Paris. It's in the trial of a group of people accused of robbing her at gunpoint in her hotel back in 2016. She arrived earlier with her mother, Kris Jenner. Her stylist, who was there, gave evidence in court as well. Kardashian has since been saying that she genuinely feared for her life, that she thought that she was going to be raped. She retold the story when 2 robbers came into her room who she thought were police officers, thought about running, but she said she realised it was not an option. She was bound and gagged in the attack. Jewels worth millions of dollars were taken, including a $2.9 million engagement ring from her then husband, Kanye West. Only one piece of jewellery has ever been recovered. And Andy Murray will no longer be working as Novak Djokovic's coach. The decision, said to be by mutual agreement, means Murray will not be courtside when Novak Djokovic goes for an 8th Wimbledon title in July. The decision comes just before the French Open as well, where Djokovic has a good record too. He's a 24-time Grand Slam champion. Now, they teamed up back in November and then had a very successful run at the Australian Open. Ultimately, Djokovic retired in the semi-finals injured. Those are your headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, in an exclusive sit-down interview with GB News' Chris Hope, Donald Trump's Secretary of State for Agriculture has slammed Keir Starmer's inheritance tax raid on British farmers. The firebrand Brooke Rollins called them a problem that could close farms. Take a listen.
Our administration is hyper-focused on putting our farmers first, getting American agriculture to the world. So not fully understanding the dynamics here in the UK,
yes.
but my
we have
suggestion...
a similar debate here. Don't worry about it.
I would think that's right, but putting your farmers first and ensuring that the backbone of your country, whether it's America or UK or the EU or Canada or Mexico, you can't have true national security without food security.
Well, they're hiking taxes on these family farms. That's a big issue here.
That's right, and that's a problem. I mean,
are you worried about that?
100%. I think that anywhere in the world where you're increasing the cost of your input, obviously increasing the cost of taxes, increasing the cost of the land.
On farmers.
That's right. You're going to start closing your farms, and at that point, you begin to, outsource to, of course, America. We'd love to outsource. We're such great partners, but there are other partners in the world that maybe aren't the greatest partners for other reasons that we've got to be hyper-focused on.
Was an extremely competent and exciting politician, and I'm joined in the studio by GB News political correspondent editor Chris Hope. Chris, who did that interview. Chris, she shot to prominence in Britain's consciousness anyway on that day of the Trump-Starmer trade deal. She came out roaring about supporting American farmers, and on that day, British farmers were bracing themselves for the worst. She was talking about supporting American farmers who've been punished by the world. Markets have been closed down. British farmers saying, oh, wow, that means cheap beef, cheap chicken, cheap ethanol. And yet, we seem to have found now an unlikely ally. You sat down with her. She seems very impressive. Tell us more.
Yes, and great to see you, Martin, in the studio. Unexpected support here from the most important person in American farming. Sits in the cabinet with Donald Trump. Brooke Rollins served in Trump 1 in the first Trump presidency, and then there was a pause, of course, under Biden, and then back in power now. Over here for talks with Steve Reed yesterday, the Environment Secretary, in talks today with, I think, the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, and also, I think, maybe the Science Secretary here as well. So lots of a really important person here, and they're saying very clearly, questioning why on earth the government is trying to play with those thresholds for inheritance tax, apply it to family farms. We all know, don't we, the arguments now. It means that if you have any assets worth over $2 million, you pay 40%, and that could see some farmers left with enormous bills, and they're very cash poor and asset rich, and that's why it may break up some farms. She's saying, in terms, put farming first. Extraordinary.
Yeah, and getting the notion of food sovereignty, getting the notion of self-sufficiency, of sustainability, of supporting an intrinsic national interest. That's what farming is.
Yeah.
The whole conversation has been that farming isn't the same as an accountancy business. It's food sovereignty, it's food production, it's national self-survival. She gets it in a way that it seems Prime Minister doesn't.
Well, I mean, many have been telling us for a while now that it's a Treasury idea to try and close this loophole on rich people avoiding inheritance tax by saying they've got a farm, there's a cow in the field, when working farms can't pay IHT because they'll get broken up. Now, the big issue with Brooke Rollins she's facing here is, will we see more hormone-injected beef coming here or chlorine-washed chicken? That's not the plan. That's not part of the quotas agreed last week. But a fascinating interview, I think. And also, she gave us an interesting lifting a lid on what's it like to work with Donald Trump. But we'll save all that for your show at 7 p.m. tonight, Martin.
Great stuff. But it really is genuinely, just nice to feel like we have an ally on the international stage, particularly around farming. And I think at the moment those fellows will take a port in any port in a storm.
Correct.
I'll be joined by Andrew Ward, a farmer, shortly for his reaction. Let's talk about Nissan, if we could, because there was an announcement about Nissan earlier on today which set a lot of pulses racing, and that is Nissan's announced they were to close 7 plants globally and potentially sack up to 20,000 workers, 15% of its workforce. Of course, Sunderland, 6,000 jobs in Sunderland, a huge national job market there. The question marks were raised over that, but it appears there could be good news for Sunderland, Chris, in the last hour.
Yeah, and we've broken it on GBNews' website, so it's all there for viewers to look at if they have time. But in a nutshell, Nissan here is trying to cut down the number of plants it has, close 7 plants, 20,000 jobs at risk. Now, Nissan is always a story about Sunderland because of the historic links there. 30 years ago, Margaret Thatcher succeeded in getting Nissan to invest, and it's been so successful for that area. Now, what's fascinating here, 6,000 employed there. They backed the plant in 2023 with a £2 billion investment. But the president and CEO of Nissan, Ivan Espinosa, he says it's not an easy choice to announce. But he says this: in Europe, we will strengthen our presence by assembling more electrified vehicles in Sunderland, utilising our relationship with Renault. So that is fascinating. Now, that we don't know yet why. We'll drill down into this. This could be, that word again, you're grinning, a Brexit bonus. Well, it could be because we're outside the European Union.
I put it to you. Donald Trump has said that the European Union has been more difficult even than China, right? And we've already got 10% tariff, down from 25, 27. 10% still painful. It could be a lot worse for the European Union, Chris. Mercedes, Renault, BMW, Donald Trump could hammer them with higher tariffs. If I was Nissan, and I'm a global industry, I want to take a safe haven in Britain, in Brexit Britain.
In Brexit Britain. Look, it's early stages. Nissan say to the Sunderland Echo that they're looking at a detailed study within the company regarding the closures. At this stage, we can't inform you which plants will be affected, but it looks like, according to these reported remarks here by the CEO, that the cat's out the bag. They want to invest more in electrified vehicles in Sunderland. That could be a Brexit bonus, and it could be great news for Sunderland. Don't forget, Sunderland was the first constituency that came back voting for Brexit. That was the vote when I was with that party. Yeah. Were you there with the Nigel Farage's party?
No, I wasn't.
I was watching Tower. I was there, and it was a real moment when Sunderland went for Brexit. This could be 8 years on, a moment for them. But I've got to say, it's early stages. We'll wait and see the detail, but the remarks from the CEO are very promising.
But you're about to go to Downing Street for lobby. You can put this to them, see if we can get a nugget out of them. Just to remind viewers out there, Alistair Campbell, remember him, the chief Remainer, he said, a famous tweet, if Britain leaves, Nissan leaves. Nissan was always put down as a casualty of Brexit. Today, Chris, could have been thrown a lifeline because of Brexit.
And also changed because of tariffs. So this is also as a Trump dividend, possibly. Again, we don't know. We're basing it on remarks here from the CEO of Nissan. But because we're outside the European Union, because, to his credit, Keir Starmer got that deal agreed last week, he's brought down tariffs on quotas of UK vehicle making from this country, and also steel and aluminium, of course. This could be a result which the number 10 may want to trumpet.
It could have been another Brexit bonus for the man who tried to stop Brexit. And ask them about that at lobby, Chris. Beautiful stuff. Thank you very, very much. Look forward to that full interview tonight as well at 7 p.m. on GBN tonight. But back to that farming now back to that story, on farming. Let's speak now with the arable farmer, Andrew Ward. Andrew, I know you're in London at the moment. You're fighting for farmers continually. I sent you the comments there. You probably saw the video of Brooke Rollins, the US Secretary of State for Agriculture, and I know, speaking to you boys and you girls, you are very concerned about what the tariffs with America could mean. More beef, more chicken, more competition. But it seems to be very positive words today coming out of the White House.
Yes, hello Martin, good to see you again, and great interview from Chris. Thank you, Chris, for that. It is extremely worrying when you see what's happening, and the government are saying that they are going to support us farmers. Yet the deal that they have just done with America, with ethanol especially, has removed a home for about 2 million tonnes of wheat. Now, at the moment, there's 2 production facilities, Ensus and Vivergo, and they take up a good chunk of our wheat. We usually produce in the UK anywhere between 13 to 16 million tonnes of wheat. and 2 million tonnes of that goes into making ethanol. Now, the American ethanol market is heavily subsidised. That comes into this country tax-free. Then what's going to happen to this wheat that we're growing? We're already under the cosh, with prices at the moment the lowest they've been for probably 20 years. This is the last time when they were at this level. We're now about £165 a tonne for wheat, which costs as much as that to produce. And this is why we're saying that the UK farming industry is not like any other industry, because of the margins or the lack of margins that we're making in feeding the nation. And we heard from that interview that food security is national security. But at the minute, number 10 here doesn't seem to recognise that.
Yeah, OK, got Chris Hope. He'd like to fire a question at you.
Andrew, I'm in the studio here with Martin. Why do you think the Trump administration seems to get the importance to our food security of farming?
It's one that I really just don't know, but you can just see they do with what they're saying. They're for their farmers with everything. And with the inheritance tax that we're going through this issue at the minute, of one of many issues, you know, what you've just seen in the interview now, that she said, yes, she knew how many problems that was going to cause. And they are just fully supportive of agriculture. And I think they fully realise the value of what agriculture and farmers bring to the economy and the country as a whole. You know, in the UK here, farmers have often been labelled the fourth emergency service because of the amount of good that farmers do, that only farmers can do around the countryside by helping out the fire, the police and ambulance services. So America really does value their farmers and appreciate how much they bring to the economy. But at the moment, the ones down the road here behind number 10 don't.
Well, Andrew Ward, thank you for joining us and commenting on yet another sensational Chris Hope exclusive. I know some of your colleagues will be joining me later on in my show, perhaps Ollie Harrison and Martin or Clive Bailey. Thanks for joining us today on GB News. It's a funny old world. You've got a more unlikely ally over the Atlantic than you seem to have over the road there in Westminster. Thank you very much, Andrew Ward.
Thank you, Martin.
Pleasure, mate. Now, a 21-year-old man is in police custody on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life after fires at two homes linked to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Emergency services were called to blazes in North London within 24 hours of each other. And counter-terrorism officers are leading the inquiry and are now investigating whether the fires were linked. Well, GB News' home and security editor Mark White joins us now. Mark, what's the state of play and what do we know?
Well, more bits of information coming through that I think cement the suspicion that this was a series of attacks targeting specifically property and potential items linked to the Prime Minister, because not only, of course, was this the family home of Sir Keir Starmer, is the family home, although he's not living here at the moment while he is PM and living in Downing Street, but also another home in Islington, which seems to have been attacked and firebombed just the day before, 24 hours earlier. And then last Thursday, an attack, it seems, on a 4x4 vehicle on this very street just further down the street. That vehicle burnt out. But the information that's coming through now suggests that that 4x4 vehicle was actually owned by Sir Keir Starmer and then sold to a neighbour on this street when Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. So there you have two properties, one piece of property that was at some time anyway linked to the Prime Minister. What we have at the moment, of course, is a 21-year-old man in custody. He was arrested in the early hours of this morning by counter-terrorism detectives and is still being held and questioned as those same detectives try to piece together exactly the sequence of events and all of the events leading up to that. They're pouring through CCTV from the local neighbourhood. They are interviewing residents here in Kentish Town and across in Islington as they try to build a better picture of what on earth has taken place, but clearly a very worrying scenario that the leader of the opposition actually has lended support to the Prime Minister on and said, you know, that her thoughts are with him and the family, that no politician should be targeted like this. It was, she said, an attack on democracy.
Mark White, quickly if we could, how soon may it be before somebody is charged, before they're named, the mechanics, and before we get anywhere near the motive of this?
Well, probably a charge within 48 hours or so. They can hold them for that length of time. If they're being held on terror charges, which we've not been made aware that that is the case, then they can be held for up to 2 weeks. But I suspect a couple of days, and we may well be looking at charges here. Then we'll get a much better idea of what has played out and what the potential case against this individual is.
Okay, thank you very much for that update. Mark White, always a pleasure, thank you. Now, coming up, a Keighley grooming gang's pathetically short sentences have been raised following a dramatic Court of Appeal review. That's next. I'll be joined by Charlie Peters. That's with me, Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is our country and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 3:27 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, 3 men from a wicked, vile and sordid grooming gang have their sentences increased by the Court of Appeal. Ibra Hussain plus brothers Imtiaz and Fayaz Ahmed were convicted in January of raping a teenage girl in Keighley in West Yorkshire in the 1990s. And we can now speak with GB News national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, an astonishing story. Brings up to speed.
Martin, it's taken 26 years for the survivor of these horrific crimes to finally now have a sentence increased to a level that perhaps they might feel is acceptable. Because in January, when these three men were jailed, Ibrah Hussein and brothers Imtiaz and Fayaz Ahmed, they were jailed in January of raping that teenage girl, receiving what was described as pathetically short sentences. Their sentences have now been increased after a review by the Court of Appeal. So Hussein's sentence has now increased to 2 to 10 years, and Imtiaz Ahmed's sentence for one count of rape has risen to 11 years. His brother Fayaz, who was found guilty of 2 counts, that's been increased to 10 years. Now, the sentences were only reviewed after the Keighley MP Robbie Moore and the Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick raised the concern with the Attorney General in January after that, under the unduly lenient sentencing scheme. Now, this was taken on by the Solicitor General, and the Court of Appeal heard that appeal today, raising those sentences. But we have had a reaction from Mr. Jenrick, who said that this is not enough. It's an improvement, but it's not even close to being enough. He said these three men committed unspeakably evil crimes against a vulnerable 13-year-old girl. The law must be changed so men like them never see the light of day again. And Martin, there is an additional bitterness, even with the improvement of these sentences for the survivor of these crimes, because both Fayaz and Imtiaz Ahmed absconded before the trial began. After they were charged in that period before the trial starting, they fled. Now, they're believed to be overseas, and sources have told GB News that they are in Pakistan. And Mr. Jenrick went on to say that if the justice system fails, there needs to be a change, and he asked the Foreign Office to provide an update on what they're doing to ensure these men can face justice. He's told GB News that it needs to be a priority case. Well, I've reached out to the Foreign Office for comment on that in reaction to Mr. Jenrick's statement. We haven't heard back from them just yet. And we've also heard from Robbie Moore, that MP for Keighley, who said that if these sentences were unduly lenient, why weren't the sentences of the 5 other men involved in these crimes reviewed as well? Now, we could only reveal the 3 men being jailed in January after that conviction for that sentencing because those hearings were linked. 5 other men were involved in these criminal acts, but only 3 have had their sentences improved. And Martin, just finally, I have to say that for many viewers and listeners, I think they'll hear about these crimes, 26 years of waiting, and that the sentences of 10 and 11 years, perhaps in their views, also just aren't enough.
Charlie, it's just incredible that the rapists can be on the run in a foreign country and we're seemingly powerless to do anything about it, to bring them to justice. And think about those poor survivors who cannot move on, cannot get closure while these monsters are at large. And Charlie, it once again puts forward the notion we have a justice system which doesn't seem to be taking this grotesque crime seriously enough.
Well, Martin, why were they bailed? That's the leading question for me. How on earth were these men able to flee after being charged with these historic offences, particularly if they had links with a foreign country? Why are they right now, despite their sentences being increased, enjoying freedom in a foreign country? Big questions for the justice system and the Foreign Office. We wait for their response to those questions from Robert Jenrick.
Charlie Peters, I know you're too modest to take this one, but I've no doubt a huge amount of this is about your reporting, the political establishment taking the lead of your excellent work. So I think you should feel great pride in that. Thank you very much for joining us today, Charlie Peters. Always a pleasure. Some form of justice, but still justice not fully served. There's lots more still to come between now and 4 o'clock, including hundreds of people who fought for the Islamic State terrorist group and have now returned to the UK and not being successfully prosecuted. Yet again, what on earth is going on with our justice system? That's next. But first, here's your news headlines, and it's Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Martin. Good afternoon to you. Just after 3:30 3, our top stories. Conservative MP Patrick Spencer's been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. The Member of Parliament for Central Suffolk and North Ipswich is accused of the attacks, which are alleged to have happened at the Groucho Club in London in August 2023. The Met Police have said it issued the charges in relation to 2 women. He will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 16th of June. Mr Spencer was elected to Parliament in July 2024, so was not an MP at the time of the attack. A man who spent 38 years in jail for a notorious murder in the 1980s has been freed by the Court of Appeal and insists he's not angry or bitter. 68-year-old Peter Sullivan was jailed for life in 1987 for murdering Diane Sindel in Birkenhead. New DNA evidence, though, has showed he was not the killer. He appeared on video link from HMP Wakefield and sobbed upon hearing that his conviction would be quashed. The 21-year-old Diane Sindel was beaten and raped on her way home from her shift working in a pub and left in an alleyway in Merseyside back in 1986. Peter Sullivan's lawyer, though, has read in a statement from him saying that his conviction and imprisonment was wrong, but, like I said, he holds no bitterness. It's thought to bring an end to the longest-running miscarriage of justice in British history. A 21-year-old man's been arrested over suspected arson attacks on 2 properties linked to Sir Keir Starmer. The Met Police say the suspect was arrested in the early hours of this morning on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life. It follows a fire at the Prime Minister's private home in North London yesterday. On Sunday, emergency services were also called to a fire at the front door of a house converted into flats in Islington, which is also linked to the Prime Minister. Police are looking at the car fire as part of the investigation. Counter-terrorism police believe that they could be linked. They're investigating that. The leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, has condemned the suspected arson attacks. 300 migrants have crossed the English Channel in 5 small boats today. It comes a day after 600 made the illegal journey and 1,200 since Sunday. 1,200 migrants have crossed the Channel. The Labour government has promised to try and take back control of the UK's borders. Kim Kardashian has told a court in Paris she feared she'd be raped and killed during an armed robbery in the city in 2016. She's been giving evidence in the trial of 10 people, dubbed the Grandpa robbers, who are accused of holding her at gunpoint in a hotel suite back in 2016. It was during Paris Fashion Week. The court has heard that she was tied up and had her mouth taped. Jewels worth millions of dollars were taken, including a diamond engagement ring from her then-husband, Kanye West. Finally, Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic will no longer be working together. Andy Murray, who had been working as a coach to the all-time greatest singles Grand Slam winner Djokovic, have agreed to part company by mutual consent. Djokovic will be going for an 8th Wimbledon title in July. Before that, of course, on the clay, he will be at Roland Garros for the French Open. They teamed up last November, and with Murray by his side, Djokovic reached the semi-finals of the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year, I should say, but he got injured and pulled out after losing the first set. Those are your latest headlines. More from me just after 4 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Quick look at the markets today. The pound buys you $1.32 and 1.118 euros. The price of gold, £2,448 and 26 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 8,608 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Scattered downpours are breaking out across much of southern England and South Wales, but for many it is a dry rest of Tuesday with warm spells of sunshine as higher pressure builds back in again from the north. This low pressure briefly edged north to give quite a few thunderstorms in places during the last couple of days, and any showers that we are seeing develop through the afternoon across South Wales into central southern England will tend to fade away into the evening. A few showers continuing for parts of Cornwall, notably towards the far southwest, one or two perhaps making an appearance into South Devon. We've also got thickening cloud into northeast England, parts of Scotland with some drizzly showers here. Otherwise it's a dry and clear night for most. A fresh start to Wednesday, but plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly through Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southern England. But we do have some showers affecting Cornwall, South Devon during the start of the day, the early commute. And for Wales, the Midlands, Northern England, Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine. But as we edge further north, we do run into this area of cloud across central Scotland, the southeast of Scotland as well as the northeast of England. Some drizzle associated with this, and it will stick around for the first few hours of the day before eventually lifting and tending to retreat back to the North Sea coast, all the while tending to sink south so that parts of Lincolnshire and Norfolk may well be affected by low cloud lapping onto the shore by the afternoon. Showers become fewer and further between into the southwest. So for most, it's a dry and sunny afternoon with temperatures in the south, 23 to 24 Celsius, further north, mid to high teens. Then we go into Wednesday evening with the low cloud across the North Sea, pushing back inland for a time to affect parts of eastern England. But again, that will retreat back on Thursday and into Friday. Plenty of sunshine developing, and in fact, it is a dry and settled outlook with high pressure in charge.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A95 eastbound at Bridge of Avon is undergoing roadworks causing delays. On the M4 westbound at junction 38 in Margam, resurfacing has closed the exit slip road with diversions available. In Hertfordshire, a collision on the A1M northbound entry slip at junction 3 closed a lane. The A30 eastbound between the M5 and A375 in Devon has one lane closed. Conditions should improve by 4 this afternoon. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Northern are experiencing major disruption in the Lancaster area. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 4 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News on this beautiful afternoon. Now, just a reminder that you can catch Patrick Christys tonight live from Calais. That's 9 p.m. here on GB News. He's around the camps of Calais. What's going on inside these places? Our man, our fearless reporter, presenter, Patrick Christys, live from Calais, 9 p.m, exclusively, only here on GB News. And please, Patrick, stay safe. Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you'd like in your very own 4-berth motorhome worth a whopping 67,000 of your English pounds. Now here's all the details that you need to enter.
Great Britain is ready for you to explore this summer, and there's still plenty of time to grab this fabulous family motorhome. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, the Elnag Baron 560 comfortably sleeps 4, has integrated bathroom and kitchen spaces, and plenty of storage for all of the things you need to bring along on your next adventure. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that anywhere you visit in your brand new motorhome is done in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, I just cannot believe this story, but British ministers are being warned that more than 400 Islamic State jihadists are set to return to the United Kingdom without facing any form of justice. Fighters from the UK are accused of carrying out killings, terror attacks and genocide in Iraq and Syria, and it's shockingly been reported that some have already returned to the UK. Well, we can now speak with the former head of counter-terrorism at the MOD, Major General Chip Chapman. Chip, always a pleasure to have your company. You know, there's been a huge amount of national conversation about a single jihadi bride, Shamima Begum, returning to the UK. It's divided public opinion for years, so it's astonishing to even believe that there could be 400 could just waltz back into the country, and they might even already be walking among us. Chip Chapman, how does that make you feel?
You have to separate who the different people are here, I think, Martin. So 900 people went to Syria and Iraq to fight for IS. 20% of those returned within a year. They were disillusioned. It wasn't the city of the hill that we thought. 40% were killed, 15%, like Shamima Begum, had their assets stripped or citizenship was stripped from them. And 25% are left somewhere in either Syria or Iraq. So the people we're talking about are those who were disillusioned and came back earlier. Now, since then, are there things that we can do to make sure that they are dealt with in a legal sense? And the answer to that is yes. So, for example, the Counterterrorism Border Security Act in 2019 had a 10-year sentence for anyone who travelled to a designated country of conflict. And of those who returned, maybe 20%, 360, 1 in 10 of those was actually prosecuted. The difficulty with the others is the admissibility of any evidence from a war zone, both in terms of intelligence gathering and the continuity of evidence. Now, that will be made easier under the Crime and Policy Bill, which is being amended at the moment, to look at making it easier to prosecute those for war crimes and genocide. But the problem is we didn't, of course, have any consular representation with Islamic State, and you had a failing state in Syria. So there was no one to gather the evidence. And it's that which would make it trip up in a legal sense and would fail. That's the rationale behind why you haven't had these people prosecuted. That said, the disillusioned people are generally those who did not then re-engage in any sort of terrorism sense. So if you look at the numbers of people who are in prison at the moment, the figures of those who were formerly fought in Syria or Iraq is minusculely tiny.
But Chip Chapman, a lot of people watching this show will just think, you know, if you join a death cult whose sole purpose was the eradication, the evisceration of the entire Western world and the establishment of a caliphate to replace it, and then you just change your mind, it's not working out well for you, perhaps because they were getting bombarded and battered and annihilated, and rightly so, and they change their mind, just walks back into Britain. That does not seem remotely like a government taking its responsibility seriously to keep the public safe.
That's right. And again, there was legislation which came in 2015, which manages the process of that. It was the Terrorism Exclusion Orders from 2015. So that manages either their return or the process of prosecuting them after that. Now, there was a kind of gap in the legislation. That was the problem. Now, not everyone who went to Syria and Iraq was actually a committed zealot. The jihadi Johns, there were quite a few sort of curious adventurers and sex now types. They were the ones who probably came back early and may not have committed a crime apart from the crime of going, which, as I said, under now new legislation would get them locked up for 10 years.
Well, I put it to you, Chip Chapman, they weren't going for the fine cuisine. They weren't going for a holiday. They weren't going to enjoy the scenery. They were going to a war zone because they aligned politically and, you know, philosophically with the Islamic State. And I just think this sends out a message. We are not taking things remotely seriously. We don't know who these people met. We don't know what they picked up. We don't know what resentments they harbour. And it adds fuel to the fire. We have no idea who walks among us. And the government seems to be treating this like some sort of dereliction of duty. I think this is incredible. Chip Chapman, thank you very, very much for joining us on the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Now, a government spokesperson gave this statement to GB News. The government's priority remains maintaining the safety and security of the UK, and we are committed to achieving accountability for all victims of Daesh's crimes. And we will consider the findings of this report. Well, if you've been some holiday sun this year, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Some heavy showers through this week over central parts of the Mediterranean, affecting Sicily, Sardinia and also at times the Balearics. Things have cooled off a little bit across Greece and Turkey. The wind's coming down from the north, but plenty of fine spring sunshine over the Greek islands through Wednesday. There are the showers drifting northwards, affecting Sardinia, and increasingly over Mallorca and Minorca. Plenty of sunshine, though, for the Canaries. Sunny skies, too, across the Algarve. Heavy showers inland across northern Spain should ease later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
This is the King's son using the King's court to sue the King's minister. Yes. Constitutionally, this is pretty rum, isn't it? Can you think of a previous historic example?
It's unprecedented. That word's often used with regards to Harry, but I do think he's shone his light into a bunch of nettles that we never go to. Why don't we even know how much royal security costs us? And by the way, if you put in a freedom of information, you won't get a result from it because they say that would be to imperil the people they're protecting. But the truth is, let's be honest, the Duke of Gloucester on a Sunday afternoon opening, I don't know, a leisure pool in Grimsby, or even, dare I say it, the Duchess of Edinburgh rocking up to the National Memorial Arboretum and doing a very good job. I refuse to believe that they are more in need of security than Prince Harry is.
They don't get it.
But they do. I'm sorry, they do get. Royals, when they're working, do get security.
If they're doing specific events,
yes,
there are security around the events. But you can see the Duke of Kent walking up St James's Street by himself.
Yes.
There isn't this...
And when they're working is the critical word there, because Harry has stepped back from all of his frontline royal duties.
But once a prince, always a prince. You can't actually unpick
He's a Prince Emeritus.
Well, but both of you presumably believe in hereditary monarchy. And if you believe in hereditary monarchy, you've got to bear the cost.
Comes with the duty of service, which he set aside. It's not the job of the armed police to provide emotional support bodies to somebody who has abdicated their responsibilities as a member of the royal family and then is actually, instead of going into... He could have picked... There are all kinds of relatively anonymous lives that Harry could have chosen, right? He could have gone anywhere in the world. Yes. Instead, he has moved to California, where he and his wife continually try, with increasing lack of success, to cash in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time is 3:51 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Britain's warm weather is bringing a much-needed boost to the nation's retailers. Shops apparently saw a rise in food, gardening and clothes sales. And with temperatures reaching highs of 24 degrees today, they'll be hoping that this continues. But will thunderstorms and flood warnings put a dampener on things, or will the great weather continue? Let us now speak with the meteorologist at the Met Office, a man familiar to you on GB News, Alex Burkill. Alex, welcome to the show. It's Britain. It's hot. It normally rains straight away. Am I right?
Well, yes, you're right. We do often see some pretty wet weather here, and actually things have been pretty different for the last few weeks. Really, actually through much of spring, we've had a lot of dry weather. And like you said, many people are enjoying this. It's good news for lots of people. Not so good news for other people. Farmers, gardeners will be desperate for a bit of rain. And I know you mentioned we've had some thunderstorms, lots yesterday, even some today, and there will be a few showers for some of us through tomorrow as well. But thereafter, a lot more dry weather, a lot more warm sunshine to come. And so, yeah, mixed news depending on how you feel about the warm, dry weather we've been having of late.
Alex, with crushing inevitability, are we also then going to be heading for a hosepipe ban?
Well, that's a good question. There were measures taken during the winter to make sure that resources were there, but this dry period has been pretty exceptional. We're not even anywhere near the end of spring yet, and we've already seen like a very dry period. It's likely to be one of, if not the driest springs on record. And so just how long this dry weather has lasted is going to have a knock-on effect. Add to the fact that it has been warm as well. And so that's also going to contribute to things. The showers that we saw recently, although they've been quite heavy, by their very nature, showers are hit and miss. And so although some places saw some pretty intense rain, some torrential downpours, when you actually spread out the amount of rain that we saw over the whole of the country, it really wasn't that much. And so it's not going to make that much of a dent in how dry it's been recently.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you very much there. Meteorologist at the Met Office, Alex Burko. And talking about retail sales going up, no doubt pints of beer are flying off the shelves. I'll be joined soon by the landlord at the first reform pub in the UK. It's called the Talbot. It's in Blackpool. It's really getting people going on social media. People are saying the pub's racist. Others are saying they can't wait to go there. Would you go to a reform pub? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Scattered downpours are breaking out across much of southern England and South Wales, but for many it is a dry rest of Tuesday with warm spells of sunshine as higher pressure builds back in again from the north. This low pressure briefly edged north to give quite a few thunderstorms in places during the last couple of days, and any showers that we are seeing develop through the afternoon across South Wales into central southern England will tend to fade away into the evening. A few showers continuing for parts of Cornwall, notably towards the far southwest, one or two perhaps making an appearance into South Devon. We've also got thickening cloud into northeast England, parts of Scotland with some drizzly showers here. Otherwise it's a dry and clear night for most. A fresh start to Wednesday, but plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly through Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southern England. But we do have some showers affecting Cornwall, South Devon during the start of the day, the early commute. And for Wales, the Midlands, Northern England, Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine. But as we edge further north, we do run into this area of cloud across central Scotland, the southeast of Scotland, as well as the northeast of England. Some drizzle associated with this, and it will stick around for the first few hours of the day before eventually lifting and tending to retreat back to the North Sea coast, all the while tending to sink south so that parts of Lincolnshire and Norfolk may well be affected by low cloud lapping onto the shore by the afternoon. Showers become fewer and further between into the southwest. So for most, it's a dry and sunny afternoon with temperatures in the south, 23 to 24 Celsius, further north, mid to high teens. Then we go into Wednesday evening with the low cloud across the North Sea, pushing back inland for a time to affect parts of eastern England. But again, that will retreat back on Thursday and into Friday. Plenty of sunshine developing, and in fact, it is a dry and settled outlook with high pressure in charge.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M74 junction 2A on slip is closed southbound due to a road traffic incident. Drivers should find alternative routes and expect prolonged travel times. Over on the M4 westbound at junction 38 Margam, resurfacing work has led to the closure of the exit slip road and the hard shoulder, with diversions in place. In Kent, a road traffic collision on the M2 westbound entry slip at junction 7 has resulted in lane closures. Normal traffic is expected to return shortly. And on the trains, there is major disruption affecting both Avanti West Coast and Northern services in the Lancaster area. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
A hearty welcome to you on this wonderful afternoon. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. We're broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK. Coming up on the show today...
You can't have true national security without food security.
Well, they're hiking taxes on these family farms. That's a big issue here.
That's right, and that's a problem. I mean,
are you worried about that?
100%.
Yes, in an exclusive bombshell sit-down interview with Chris Hope of GB News, Donald Trump, Secretary of State for Agriculture, has slammed Keir Starmer's inheritance tax raid on British farmers. The firebrand Brooke Rollins called them a problem that could close British farms, and we'll get full reaction on the show from British farmers in the studio. Meanwhile, today, Nissan has announced that they are set to cut nearly 20,000 jobs globally. But could the Sunderland plants be thrown a lifeline? Could there be another Brexit bonus at the expense of the European Union? We'll get all the latest on this developing story. And a former Royal Marine has climbed to the summit of Mount Everest to complete the world's longest triathlon. And we'll be hoping to speak to him live from Everest Base Camp in around about 30 minutes' time. And the talking point of the day, Reform UK is set to open its first ever pub in Britain. It's called the Talbot in Blackpool, as you can see on your screens. Now, with politics and pubs, two of GB News viewers and certainly my favourite hobbies today. I'll be joined by the pub's owners to ask them, do you only serve gammon? And what about, please, a pint of Remainer Tears? And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Seriously, it's funny what gets people going on social media about our content. This pub, the Talbot, as you can see there, that's the first ever Reform UK pub in Britain. Bear in mind, there are countless Conservative clubs, loads of Labour pubs. I used to drink in the Bread and Roses in London, a Labour pub. I didn't know it was a Labour pub. It was great. No problem whatsoever. But the first Reform pub in Britain is really getting people foaming at the mouth. It has to be said on social media. People call it a gathering point for racists. It will only serve gammon. Taking the mickey completely. What's wrong with having a pub that has a political persuasion? They exist for other parties. What's the problem here? I'll be joined by the lads who set this up, and they've already set the nation's tongues wagging about the whole point behind the Talbot. Would you go to a Reform-only pub? It's not a Reform-only pub. I'm going to ask them, would you serve Jeremy Corbyn? Would you serve Ursula von der Leyen? Do you serve Remainers? And do you serve only gammon? It's just a pub. Why are people getting so angry about it? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. But now it's your headlines, and here's Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Martin. Our top stories. The Conservative MP Patrick Spencer has been charged with 2 counts of sexual assault. It follows an incident which is alleged to have happened at the Groucho Club in London in August 2023. The Met Police says it's issued the charges in relation to 2 women. Now, Mr Spencer, the Member of Parliament for Central Suffolk and North Ipswich, will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 16th of June. He was elected to Parliament in July 2024, so was not an MP at the time of the alleged incident. GB News has been in touch with his office, but Mr Spencer has yet to respond. Peter Sullivan, who spent 38 years in prison for the murder of Diane Sindel in 1986, has had his conviction quashed at the Court of Appeal. It ends what is thought to be one of the longest-running miscarriages of justice in British history. The 68-year-old had always maintained his innocence, while now new tests ordered by the Criminal Cases Review Commission have revealed his DNA was not present on samples taken at the time. And Miss Sindel was raped and beaten after she'd finished her shift at a pub in Merseyside in 1986. In a statement read by his lawyers, Peter Sullivan insisted he's not angry or bitter.
He has endured nearly 40 years in a Category A prison for a truly horrific crime that he did not commit. Today, justice has been at last served and his conviction has been quashed. Since his conviction in 1987, Peter has maintained his innocence. Peter's consistent insistence that he wasn't guilty has been supported by us at Switolski's, and today we are one step closer to justice for Peter. While we are overjoyed that Peter's innocence has been recognised, we remain acutely aware of the lasting impact caused by this horrific crime in 1986.
A 21-year-old man's been arrested over a series of suspected arson attacks on property linked to Sir Keir Starmer. It follows a fire at the Prime Minister's private home in Kentish Town in North London in the early hours of yesterday. Emergency services were also called to deal with a small fire at a property in Islington. That was on Sunday, which is also linked to the Prime Minister. Police are looking at a third fire which took place on a car in the same street as the Kentish Town property. That was on Thursday, all part of the investigation. Counter-terrorism police believe it may be linked. 300 migrants have crossed the English Channel in 5 small boats today. It comes after 600 made the illegal journey yesterday. Since Sunday, so this week in total, 1,200 migrants have crossed the Channel. The government unveiled plans to significantly cut down on net migration, announced in a white paper in the House of Commons yesterday. The Labour government has promised to take back control of the UK's borders. Now, the US President Donald Trump is in Saudi Arabia on a major diplomatic trip. He has been greeted there by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The pair have had a lavish lunch. This is all part of Donald Trump's attempts to secure new economic agreements in the Middle East. It's part of a 4-day trip where he will also visit Riyadh, Doha and Abu Dhabi. So far, the US and Saudi Arabia have signed an arms deal worth, £107 billion. That's a defence agreement. The US will provide state-of-the-art equipment to Saudi Arabia, who in turn will invest in AI, artificial intelligence, back in the US. He's hoping these business agreements on this trip will be worth in the region of $1 trillion. Kim Kardashian's told a court in Paris she feared she'd be raped and killed during an armed robbery in the city back in 2016. She's been giving evidence for more than 2 hours in the trial of 10 people accused of robbing her at gunpoint in a Parisian hotel in 2016. Ms Kardashian was targeted during Paris Fashion Week. The court has heard how she was tied up with her mouth taped, and that £7.5 million worth of jewellery, including a diamond engagement ring from her then-husband Kanye West, was taken during the raid. Only one piece of jewellery has ever been recovered. Now, all but two of the group have pleaded not guilty. Ms Kardashian has told one of those who's admitted his guilt that she forgives him. And a famous tennis partnership, that of Andy Murray and Novak Djokovic, appears to have come to an end. Murray will no longer be working as a coach to the Serbian former world number one. The decision, said to be made by mutual agreement, means that Murray will not be at Djokovic's side when he chases an 8th Wimbledon title back in July. The French Open to come before that, of course. The pair have been playing ever since the juniors, once fierce rivals, but also good friends. Djokovic, a 24-time Grand Slam champion, has the most major titles of any singles male player. He reached the Aussie Open semi-final, lost after retiring hurt. So their partnership will not be carrying on for Wimbledon, which is a shame for tennis fans. More from me just after 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Aaron. Now we've got an action-packed hour. Let's get tucked in. In an exclusive sit-down interview with GB News' Chris Hope, Donald Trump's Secretary of State for Agriculture has slammed Keir Starmer's inheritance tax raid on British farmers. The firebrand Brooke Rollins called them a problem that could close farms. And let's take a listen.
Our administration is hyper-focused on putting our farmers first, getting American agriculture to the world. So not fully understanding the dynamics here in the UK,
yes.
But my
we have
suggestion,
a similar debate here. Don't worry about it.
I would think that's right. But putting your farmers first and ensuring that the backbone of your country, whether it's America or UK or the EU or Canada or Mexico, you can't have true national security without food security.
Well, they're hiking taxes on these family farms. That's a big issue here.
That's right. And that's a problem. I mean,
are you worried about that?
100%. I think that anywhere in the world where you're increasing the cost of your input, obviously increasing the cost of taxes, increasing the cost of the land.
On farmers.
That's right. You're going to start closing your farms. And at that point, you begin to, outsource to, of course, America. We'd love to outsource. We're such great partners. But there are other partners in the world that maybe aren't the greatest partners for other reasons that we've got to be hyper-focused on.
Incredible stuff there from Brooke Rollins. But before we discuss that in the studio with Adam and Cherry, we've got some live pictures of Donald Trump. Of course, he's on a whistle-stop tour of the Middle East. He's in Saudi Arabia at present, and incredible news broke in about the last 30 minutes. Just done an arms deal, a small deal, a $142 billion deal with Saudi Arabia on armaments. That is what you call a big deal. A lot of money and a lot of implications for national security across the Middle East in terms of partnerships. What would that mean about Iran, about Israel, about prosperity, about global peace, about displays of power? Donald Trump, of course, off to Qatar and the Emirates next. But that significant news. $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. A lot of people, no doubt, will cry about that, saying, why should we do deals with tyrants? They always said the same about the United Kingdom. But this is the geopolitics of the area now exemplified. A huge, huge arms deal between the US and Saudi Arabia. That's live pictures there of Donald Trump on that tour. More of that later in the show. Let's get back now to some domestic politics with a little pinch of America on top. And I'm joined in the studio by GB News' reporter Adam Cherry. Adam, that clip there of Brooke Rollins, I thought...
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah.
It's incredible because she was the one who came out guns blazing when the Starmer-Trump trade deal was announced. She went into bat for American agriculture. We've been pillaged by the world, denied access too long, unfair, uncompetitive. Today, sounding like the clarion call, the supporter of British farmers.
It's unbelievable. Actually, in the last few moments, my colleague Christopher Hope, our political editor, has been in a briefing with Downing Street officials, with the number 10 deputy spokesman. And in response to that clip, that interview, of course, we'll hear from Christopher Hope later on in the show, Downing Street say our support for farmers has been made clear. You might be familiar with some of this language. £5 billion package over 2 years. We have had to take tough decisions to wipe the slate clean, which is the same language they use when they're talking about raising national insurance and all these quite ugly tax rises that were introduced in the autumn budget just before, last autumn. The deal with the US will open the market up for UK farmers to sell more of our world-class products across the Atlantic. But like you said, the language there, just unbelievable. It's a huge problem, very concerned. I mean, you and I know how, and you're going to talk to farmers later today, you and I know how much this has impacted British farmers. We see them up on Whitehall in their tractors. I mean, I've ridden in one. They're up on Whitehall, it seems, practically every week. It's been a huge, I think, political mistake by this government.
And it just is incredible to hear a US Secretary of State for Agriculture sticking up for punitive taxes on British farmers, saying national security is food security, sounding very much like Jeremy Clarkson, sounding like the British farmers that have been in this studio endlessly. Isn't it incredible that British farmers are bracing themselves for cheap, perhaps hormone-pumped beef, chlorinated chicken, fearing the worst? I don't think that will happen. Today we were assured later in the interview that won't be part of the deal. That's going out at 7 p.m. later on GBN Tonight with me. But sounding like an ally of Britain.
Yeah, and like it's bizarre. This is an American Secretary of Agriculture making these appeals to British farmers rather than our own government. Don't think the farmers won't notice that. It's actually really important. That's why I say politically it's such a mistake, I think. And I don't think the government, or even those at the top of the Treasury, the Chancellor, knew how big this was going to be. Because actually, when this was put out, just very quickly, when this was put out, all us journalists get briefing notes basically explaining what's in the budget and a précis of the whole thing. There's almost nothing on the farming tax. They weren't expecting any scrutiny on this, and it's, I think, blown up in quite a significant way. You've now got American politicians wading in quite a significant way.
A quick blast on the story again. It's caught our eye. Nissan. They announced earlier on today they were set to close 7 plants globally, perhaps sacking 20,000 workers, 15% of their global workforce. People were bracing themselves for pain. In Sunderland, 6,000 they're employed by Nissan, except the Nissan CEO, Ivan Espinosa, said around about 2:30 that the production of electric vehicles in Sunderland will be increased. Adam Cherry, I put it to you, could that be a direct result of Nissan, a global company, taking a safe haven in Brexit Britain?
Because our tariffs are now lower than the EU, and we're able to do that because we're not in the EU anymore, right? So that was the deal made last week. Tariffs here now are at a global minimum, still about 10%, and the whole point of having Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, I was there in that Jaguar Land Rover factory last week, was to say, look, this is a big deal for everyone here. It's not as good as it was 3 years ago when there were no tariffs, but it's certainly better than 6 months ago. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if your car is now cheaper to produce in England rather than France, Germany, whatever, it stands to reason, build the cars here and make more of a profit.
I wonder if the Keir Starmer will be getting another Brexit bonus.
Just very quickly, Martin, I just want to say that we do have another line on that from Christopher Hope. This is again from the number 10 spokesman, who said on the Nissan story, this will be a concerning time at Nissan and for staff's families. We have a long-standing partnership with Nissan and we'll work closely with them. We have asked for Nissan to share its full plan so we can assess its impact on the UK.
Well, I think we're one step ahead of number 10 here, because the CEO, Ivan Espinosa, announced to the world's media at 2:20. It's there for all to see. It's on Reuters.
Well, I asked this morning, they do 2 of these briefings per day. And the morning one, the number 10 weren't aware of this.
Well, they're out of touch.
They had no idea what we were talking about.
Nissan have just said they're back in Britain. Number 10 don't bloody well know about it. Adam Shelley, thank you very, very much. A reminder, I got back to those live pictures of Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia. Just to repeat, if you didn't hear before, an incredible $142 billion arms deal has been struck with Saudi Arabia by Donald Trump today. That is absolutely massive, a significant implication for global security, for partnerships between the Middle East and the United States. A huge, huge deal, and we can delve into the details of that later on. Of course, Donald Trump on a whistle-stop tour, Saudi and then the United Arab Emirates and also Qatar as part of the Middle East tariff and trade tour. Now, let's get some reaction to all of this. I'm joined by the chief political commentator at The Independent, John Rentoul. John, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Shall we start with farming? You probably overheard there Brooke Rollins, perhaps an unlikely ally to British farmers, saying Keir Starmer seems to have got it wrong on the inheritance tax.
Yeah, no, I heard that. I couldn't believe my ears. Another American politician sticking their nose into British domestic business. I mean, I didn't like it when Vice President Vance started opining on whether we have free speech in Britain or not. None of its business. I don't care whether you're in favour of the inheritance tax on farmers or not. It's none of American politicians' business.
What about when Barack Obama came to Britain and said that we'd be at the back of the queue if we Brexited, and now we're at the front of the queue because we Brexited with Donald Trump?
I really didn't like that either. That was unwarranted and counterproductive because I think a lot of British voters rather resented being told how to vote by foreign leaders, from Barack Obama to the Pope. And they behaved accordingly. I think, there are conventions about these things. Politicians tend not to interfere in the domestic politics of other countries, and quite right too. And I think the US Agriculture Secretary should abide by the same rule.
Accepts John Rentoul. British farmers on my show today, who I've been speaking to throughout the day, telling me they feel they have a greater ally in the Secretary of State for Agriculture in America than they've got in Westminster.
Yeah, but they wouldn't like it if she'd expressed the opinion the other way. So I think they need to be consistent about that. They need to make their case on their own merits. They don't want to be calling in foreign politicians on their side. This is a British political matter, and I think America should stay out of it.
OK, let's get back to Sunderland. You must have heard us talking about that, which seems to be yet another 2-in-1 potential Brexit bonus for Sir Keir Starmer. Remember, people like Alistair Campbell, they stated quite clearly back in the days of Project Fear, if Britain leaves, Nissan leaves. That never happened. Yep. Net zero became a huge factor, and Nissan think about its strategy. And now we're hearing 7 plants to close globally, 20,000 casualties. But it appears Sunderland could get a Brexit bonus because shifting manufacturing to here. And John, again, perhaps this is because the British tariffs will be better than the European Union tariffs.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I didn't hear what the CEO actually said, but it sounds as if that's extremely good news. I mean, you've got to bear in mind that the economic costs of Brexit were high and will not be compensated for completely by this announcement or the India trade deal or the US deal. I mean, however welcome those are, they're not going to repair the damage that was done to the economy by Brexit. But that wasn't really the argument for Brexit. I mean, I think fundamentally that was an argument about sovereignty. Yeah,
and it was also, John, an argument about being nimble and sovereign and independent, so we could negotiate precisely the kind of trade deals we did with Donald Trump outside of the 27 member states, and having a superior taxation environment like we're seeing here with Nissan. 2 Brexit bonuses. Come on, John, say it. Well done,
No.
Brexiteers.
No, I don't. I don't buy any of that, Martin. I think it would have been possible to do a better Brexit, which didn't involve us having the freedom to do these deals around the world, but would have involved us in having a better relationship with the European single market. And I think we would have been better off overall as a result of that. But that's all water under the bridge. So yeah, let's welcome Nissan's announcement, and let's welcome the US and India trade deals.
So you welcome this Brexit bonus, John?
I'm not calling it a Brexit bonus, but I'm welcoming it.
John, I have to keep nipping away. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Seriously, thank you for coming on the show today. That's the chief political commentator at The Independent, John Rentoul. I'll get him to admit one day that Brexit did have some upsides. Now it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your chance to enjoy as many getaways as you like in your very own 4-berth motorhome. I want one of these so badly. They're worth 67 grand. Here's how you could bag it.
It really is our biggest prize package to date, and it could be all yours, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine yourself driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome worth over £67,000. You'll find it has plenty of room to accommodate your family of 4, comes with sky roof, kitchen and bathroom, and can be driven on a standard driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a further £5,000 in tax-free cash. There's one guaranteed winner for this prize package worth over £72,000, and that winner really could be you. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, coming up, the UK's largest Pride March organisers have suspended political party participation in their events in unequivocal solidarity with the transgender community. Is this inclusive? Anyway, why do political parties go to these events in the first place? There's Sir Keir Starmer with his face paint on. I'm Martin Daubney on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
So we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:27. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, go back to those live pictures for you there. Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia, and the big news to come out of this. You can see there, investment agreements, the big headline on that screen. $300+ billion worth of deals on the table. And the big headline coming out in this past hour, a huge, or as Trump would call it, huge deal has been done on armaments. $142 billion arm deal between Saudi Arabia and the United States. That is a significant deal, not only in terms of its financial merit, but also its implications for world peace and geopolitics and the enforcement of law and order and the rule of law potentially across the Middle East. That could spell very bad news for Iran, for Palestine, for the pro-Palestine movement there. This is a huge cementing of partnerships between Donald Trump's new regime and the Saudi Arabia regime. $142 billion, a significant deal. Donald Trump is there with senior members of his team, including actually Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, who, remember, a while ago, people said, oh, he's leaving the regime. He is out there, no doubt, talking about opportunities of tech for his tech. That could include the rockets, that could include his Starlink internet access across the area. He wants satellites in the air to be controlling the airwaves, and that would mean there would be internet access even during wars, during things like that. And this is the first day, of course. He is in Saudi Arabia today. He'll be in Qatar tomorrow, and then the United Arab Emirates on Thursday, continuing what looks to be very much like a cementing of allies, doing of deals, of tariffs. There we are, the Saudi-US Investment Forum, already huge deals being done, $124 billion deal. This is a 4-day swing through the Gulf region, focusing on deals and also talking about the crisis in the war in Gaza and the ongoing escalation of Iran's nuclear program. And that $142 billion deal will have a significant impact on the Ayatollah and his ability to nuclear arm in Iran. Donald Trump, for now, is watching in the audience. He will be speaking shortly, we are told. And when that happens, we'll cross live back to Saudi Arabia. Now back to Blighty now, and there'll be Pride without politics this year, as 4 of the UK's major Pride events have banned political parties from marching in a bold show, they claim, of solidarity with the trans community. Now, in a joint statement, Birmingham Pride, Brighton Pride, Pride in London and Manchester Pride said they will not, quote, stand by as the dignity, safety and humanity of our trans siblings are debated, delayed or denied after the UK Supreme Court's ruled, of course, that a woman is a biological female. So is it time to ask, should politics be kept out of Pride altogether? Well, join us now is the gender GP, Helen Webberley. Helen, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Do you stand by this as the right choice? We should keep the politics out of Pride this year.
I don't think it's about keeping politics out of Pride. I think it's about making sure that the politicians are supporting our LGBT plus community throughout the year and not just during Pride Month.
But they do. They patently do. We see LGBTQ plus initiatives left, right and centre, not only through politics, but also through the civil service. The Supreme Court have made a ruling. That's not political ruling. They're meant to be separate from the state. What's the problem with that?
What we've seen is the withdrawal of rights of trans people. As Birmingham said there, they've been debated, they've been delayed, they've been denied their human rights. And the politicians have stood by and allowed it to happen. What we need is strength from our politicians and the political organisations. We need them to stand strongly and absolutely not tolerate the hate, the discrimination, the exclusion of trans people, which is what we're seeing and what we've seen since this Supreme Court judgment.
What about the rights of lesbians on the same marchers who have repeatedly said they don't want to share spaces with trans people? Don't their rights matter? Or are Pride marches now solely about trans rights?
I don't think for a minute that any of those four cities are saying this is just about trans people. What the lesbians, the gay people are saying, and the bisexual people are saying is we stand by the T at the end of LGBT, and we stand by those people, and that includes the majority of lesbians.
Well, I wonder if that's true, because I wonder actually if the trans lobby now has completely hijacked the entire Pride movement to the point where it's starting to fragment. That this is absolutely
the trans lobby. The trans lobby. Oh, excuse me, but we're talking about transgender people here.
Okay,
who are going through a hellish time.
I'm afraid. I'm so sorry. I have to interrupt you. I'm being told we must go back to Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump is taking the lectern. He's about to speak. As we just said, he's on this 4-day whistle-stop tour of the Gulf region, a trade tour, and also today striking the first of what we believe to be many significant deals, a $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia for implications for not only the financial side of things, but for peace and security and armaments in the Middle East. This has massive implications, of course, for Iran's ability to arm itself as a nuclear power. There's been a huge bone of contention with Donald Trump all along. Successive regimes, he claims, completely failed. Previous regimes, the Obama regime, the Biden regime, actually gave billions of dollars to Iran in the hope it wouldn't proceed with its nuclear policy. That didn't work out. Now Donald Trump is taking a very different approach. There he is in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh today, about to speak at this huge meeting there. It's called the Investment Forum 2025. On that screen, it said $300 billion worth of deals are going to be struck across the Gulf region in the next few days, not just economic, but also addressing security crises in the area, ranging from the war in Gaza to the threat of escalation, as I said, of Iran's nuclear program. This is an era in world peace where Donald Trump will be hoping to be not just a strong man of the world, policing the world. He's repeatedly said he doesn't want to be doing that. But if he's having these allies, these deals with political partnerships throughout the Middle East, that will cement the global network, no doubt, and putting fear into the heart of the Ayatollahs. Elon Musk is on this trip. Remember, we heard rumours before that Musk and Trump had fallen out, that Elon Musk was cutting short his relationship with the Trump regime, although it was always going to be a short regime. Donald Trump now taking the stage.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. What a great place. What a great place, but more importantly, great people. I want to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, for that incredible introduction. He's an incredible man. Known him a long time now. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much, my friend. And it's a tremendous honor to return to this beautiful kingdom and be welcomed back with such extraordinary generosity and warmth. I've never forgotten the exceptional hospitality showed to us by King Solomon, who's just, we talk about a great man. That is a great man. That is a great man, a great family. Now, that visit took place exactly 8 years ago. The graciousness of the royal family and the Saudi people is really unsurpassed, no matter where you go. Let me also thank the countless ministers, government officials, business leaders, and distinguished guests for for that warm welcome. Very warm, and I know so many of you. I'd like to call out all of your names, but we have a lot of problems. We'd be here for a long time. We don't want that, so don't be upset. With this historic state visit, we celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security. And prosperity. Today we reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. It is more powerful than ever before. And by the way, it will remain that way. We don't go in and out like other people. It will remain that way. I've come this afternoon to talk about the bright future of the Middle East, but first let me begin by sharing the abundance of good news from a place called America. In less than 4 months, our new administration has achieved more than most other administrations accomplish in 4 years or even 8 years. We've actually done, for the most part, more. The day I took office, we inherited, thank you. Thank you. The day I took office, we inherited a colossal invasion on our southern border, an invasion like you'd never want to see here. Nobody should ever want to see it. But within weeks, we slashed illegal border crossings to an all-time low, down 99.999%. That's good, even for this great gentleman standing right in front of me. That's a good number. We had hundreds of thousands of people. They came in at the same time last year, and last month we had, in this massive border, 3 people that got in. That's quite a difference, and we have no choice but to get a lot of the people that came in because they were not the best people. They were, in many cases, very bad people. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. We're bringing them back to where they came from. We have no choice. After years of military recruiting shortfalls, enlistments in the U.S. Armed Forces are now the highest in 30 years because there is such an incredible spirit in the United States of America. We have tremendous spirit again. Just about a year ago, it was a big story, front page on every paper all over the world, that nobody wanted to enlist in our military, meaning we were way under enlisted. And just last week it came out that we had the strongest enlistment. They say 30 years, but probably it's maybe ever. They don't go back that far. It's the best, and that includes police officers, firemen, everything else. Is a great spirit in the United States right now. A brand new poll from Rasmussen just showed that the number of Americans who believe the nation is on the right track, they have a right track, wrong track, is now the highest in over 20 years. And it hasn't been anything like this because for many years it was the wrong track. And I can tell you for the last 4 years it was definitely the wrong track, but it's the highest it's been in many, many years. We renamed the...
And that is Donald Trump there speaking in Saudi Arabia shortly after securing a massive $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Elon Musk there sat in the second row behind the King of Saudi Arabia. Let's go back now to Donald Trump.
Most importantly for the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right? I'm not going to take that on. No, Mohammed, I'm not going to take that on. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing if I made that full statement? But I will not do it. You're hotter. At least as long as I'm up here, you're hotter. But groceries, gasoline, energy, and all other prices are down with no inflation. We have no inflation, and in a few short weeks, we've created 464,000 brand new jobs. Think of that. It's almost 500,000 jobs created just in a matter of weeks. We just reached a historic trade agreement with the United Kingdom, and over the weekend we reached a breakthrough agreement with China. Both outstanding deals. China's agreed. We have to get it down. We have to get the little details down. And Scott, you're going to work on that very hard, but China's agreed to open up to the United States for trade and everything else. But they have to do it, so we'll see what happens. But we had a very, very good meeting with both of those countries. We are cutting 10 old regulations for every new regulation. We're getting rid of all of the red tape that is so many, frankly, countries, as they get older, they develop a lot of red tape, and we're getting rid of it. We're getting rid of it at record levels. And I'm pleased to report that the United States Congress is on the verge of passing the largest tax cut and regulation cut in American history. We think we're in good shape to get that. And if we get that, that will be like a rocket ship for our country. In the first quarter of the year, the investment in America was up an astounding 22%. More than $10 trillion of new investments have been announced or are coming just since the election on November 5th. So think of that. In a very short period of time, we have over $10 trillion, and it could be much higher than that. Not everybody comes to the White House to have a news conference that they're going to be opening up in America, but they're all coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. If you take a look at other presidencies, they wouldn't do $1 trillion sometime in years. We did this in essentially 2 months because you have to say we got into office and they gave me about a month to clean up and fix up the Oval Office, and after that we started working. And the money is pouring in, the jobs are pouring in, the companies are pouring into our country like we've never seen before. There's never been anything like it. And we let other people tariff us into losing a lot of money and a lot of jobs, and now we're tariffing them. And it's at a level that nobody's seen. It's a level that is making us a very much different country and a very different Republican Party. We won a tremendous victory in November. We won all 7 swing states, the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. The Electoral College we won by 312 to 226. Remember they said, well, we could get to 270. No, we got to 312. That's a big difference. And very importantly, we won counties throughout the United States, 2,660 to 451. That's why when you look at a map, they're all red. The whole country is red. Red stands for Republican. From the moment on and from the moment we started, we've seen wealth that just poured and is pouring back into America. Apple is investing $500 billion. NVIDIA is investing, and I see my friend is here, Jensen. That's very good, wherever you may be. Thank you very much, because he's putting in $500 billion. TSMC is investing. Where is Jensen, by the way? Where is he? He's standing here. Where is he? I just saw that. Thank you very much, Jensen. I mean, Tim Cook isn't here, but you are. What a job you've done. He said he's got 99% of the chip market. I don't know. That's not easy to beat. But what a job you've done. Thank you. We are proud to have you in our country. You know that. Thank you for the investment. TSMC is investing $200 billion, and with this trip, we're adding over $1 trillion more in terms of investment into our country and buying our products. And you know, nobody makes military equipment like us. We have the best military equipment, the best missiles, the best rockets, the best everything. Best submarines, by the way. Most lethal weapon in the world. In addition to purchases of $142 billion of American-made military equipment by our great Saudi partners, the largest ever. This week there are multi-billion-dollar commercial deals with Amazon, Oracle, AMD. They're all here. Uber, Qualcomm, Johnson & Johnson, and many, many more. So I want to congratulate everybody. So many great business executives, many of you, most of you I know. And they're coming in, you know, about a month ago. They weren't that happy when they saw me. And now they're saying, sir, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much. It's amazing what a rising market will do. Oh, it's going to get a lot higher. In fact, I told people 5 weeks ago, this is a great time to buy. I got criticized for that. Now they don't criticize me anymore. People should have listened. But it's going to go a lot higher. You see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in. Never seen anything like it. There's no better place to make a future or make a fortune, do anything, frankly, than what we have in the United States of America under a certain president, Donald J. Trump. I have the right attitude. I have the same attitude that the people in the front row, second row, third row have. As you get back, perhaps they start to wane a little bit in terms of their view. But they understand, and we're doing what a lot of smart people would do. And we're not necessarily being politically correct. You saw what we did yesterday with health care. We've cut our health care by 50 to 90%. You're going to see drugs and pharmaceuticals come down at numbers that nobody has ever seen. And drugs, pharmaceuticals, we think will be dropping. And it'll be a redistribution of costs with other nations, which really took advantage of a very nice group of people that ran our country. But not only is this a time of incredible excitement in the United States, it's also an exhilarating period right here in the Arabian Peninsula. Beautiful place, by the way, beautiful place. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly 8 years ago this month, I stood in this very room and looked forward to a future in which the nations of this region would drive the forces of terrorism and extremism, drive them right out of existence, and take your place among the proudest, most prosperous, most successful nations anywhere in the world as leaders of a modern and rising Middle East. So exciting, so exciting. Mohammed, you sleep at night? How do you sleep? Huh? Just thinking. What a job. He tosses and turns like some of us. Tosses and turns all night. How do I make it even better all night? It's the ones that don't toss and turn. They're the ones that will never take you to the promised land, won't they? But you have done some job. True. But critics doubted that it was possible what you've done. But over the past 8 years, Saudi Arabia has proved the critics totally wrong. The transformation that has occurred even by these incredible business leaders. I mean, you had the biggest leaders in business anywhere in the world standing right before us. But the transformation that has occurred under the leadership of King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed has been truly extraordinary. Such a thing has, I don't think, ever happened before. I've never seen anything at that scale happen before. And I guess, you know, maybe you could say the United States is doing pretty well too, you know, but I don't think too many people have seen that happen before. Majestic skyscrapers, the towers that I see, the difference between now and 8 years ago. And 8 years ago was very impressive, but the towers that I see rising, some of the exhibits that I was shown by Mohammed, what I've seen there is just an amazing, it's an amazing process, amazing genius of so many people, architecture, but I have a feeling I know where many of those ideas came from. Happens to be sitting right in this room right before me, but the towers and all of the different, I've seen a lot of different towers. I didn't think there's any version of a tower that I haven't seen in one form or another. Well, I just passed 4 exhibits. I have never seen anything like any of them. So it's going to be very exciting. And they sit among the ancient wonders of a growing and exciting city. It's really amazing. Riyadh is becoming not just a seat of government, but a major business, cultural, and high-tech capital of the entire world. The World Cup is here. Johnny, just stand up, John. Johnny, thank you, Johnny. Great job, Johnny, great job. But the World Cup and the World Expo will soon be coming here, just like the World Cup is coming to the United States. It's going to be really exciting next year. The engines of Formula One racing now roar through the streets of Jeddah in a historic milestone. Other industries recently surpassed oil. Think of it. All of your other industries now have surpassed oil. I don't know if a lot of people will understand what that means. It's so big to make up a majority of the Saudi economy for the very first time ever. So think of that. Other industries are now bigger even than oil, which is always going to be a big monster. It's a big one. But that's a great tribute to you and economic development properly used. In other cities throughout the peninsula, places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Doha, Muscat, the transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly. And it's something only you could do. You achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way. That's a good way. Today, the Gulf nations have shown this entire region a path towards safe and orderly societies with improving quality of life, flourishing economic growth, expanding personal freedoms, and increasing responsibilities on the world stage. After so many decades of conflict, finally it is within our grasp to reach the future that generations before us could only dream about, a land of peace, safety, harmony, opportunity, innovation, and achievement right here in the Middle East. So beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing that's happening. I guess, you know, the people that are here can't even really appreciate it because you see it happening, and it's when you come to a place that you haven't seen in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years that it's even more incredible. When I left office just over 4 years ago, that future seemed almost impossible, what you've done. Together we had obliterated the killers of ISIS. We wiped them out and terminated its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. We had healed the divide in the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's a very big deal. And united the nations of the region to stand against the enemies of all civilization. We'd imposed unprecedented sanctions on Iran and starved the regime of resources to fund terror. They were unable to fund anything because they had no money left. They had no money. But the new administration came in and let them have a lot of money, and you saw what happened. It was not money well spent. And with the historic Abraham Accords that we're so proud of, all the momentum was aimed at peace, and it aimed very successfully. It's been an amazing thing, the Abraham Accords, and it's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East. I took a risk in doing them, and they've been an absolute bonanza for the countries that have joined. The Biden administration did nothing for 4 years. We would have had it filled out. But it will be a special day in the Middle East with the whole world watching when Saudi Arabia joins us, and you'll be greatly honoring me, and you'll be greatly honoring all of those people that have fought so hard for the Middle East. And I really think it's going to be something special, but you'll do it in your own time, and that's what I want, and that's what you want, and that's the way it's going to be. When I left office, the only thing still standing between this region and its unbelievable potential was a small group of rogue actors and violent thugs seeking constantly to drag the Middle East backward and into havoc, mayhem, and indeed into war. Unfortunately, instead of confronting these destructive forces, the last U.S. administration chose to enrich them and empower them and give them billions and billions of dollars. The Biden administration, the worst administration in the history of our country, by the way, spurned our most trusted and long-standing Gulf partners, and I can say partners worldwide, one of our great, great partners, no matter who we look to, and we have great partners in the world, but we have none stronger and nobody like the gentleman that's right before me. He's your greatest representative, greatest representative. And if I didn't like him, I'd get out of here so fast. You know that, don't you? He knows me well. I do. I like him a lot. I like him too much. That's why we give so much, you know? Too much. I like you too much. Great guy. They lifted sanctions on Iran in exchange for getting nothing, and sent the regime tens of billions of dollars to fund terror and death all over the world. And they laughed at him. They laughed at our leader. And they're still laughing at our leader. They thought him a fool. And they made nothing but trouble ever since, including the funding of October 7th, one of the worst days ever in the history of the Middle East. Horrible day. Biden removed the Houthis from the list of foreign terrorist organizations, even while missiles and drones were being launched right here at your beautiful city of Riyadh, and launched at ships if they happened to be sailing in the wrong location. The Biden administration's extreme weakness and gross incompetence derailed progress toward peace, destabilized the region, and put at risk everything we had worked so hard to build together. And when you think of the great achievements that you've made, to do it in light of a pretty hostile administration, an administration that was not a believer, it makes your achievements even greater. Makes them even greater, you know that. But in a few short months since taking office, we have achieved the swift return of American strength at home and abroad, now working with the vast majority of people in this region who seek stability and calm. Our task is to unify against the few agents of chaos and terror that are left and that are holding hostage the dreams of millions and millions of great people. The biggest and most destructive of these forces is the regime in Iran, which has caused unthinkable suffering in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond. There could be no sharper contrast with the path you have pursued on the Arabian Peninsula than the disaster unfolding right across in the Gulf of Iran. Think of that. They wanted to name it that. I said, they're not going to let them do that. Do you mind if I stop that? I stopped it. We're not going to let that happen. While you have been constructing the world's tallest skyscrapers in Jeddah and Dubai, Tehran's 1979 landmarks are collapsing into rubble and dust. They had it going for a little while under a much different system, but those buildings are largely falling apart, falling down, while you're building some of the world's biggest and most incredible infrastructure projects. Buildings, all sorts of things you're building that nobody's ever even seen before. Iran's decades of neglect and mismanagement have left the country plagued by rolling blackouts lasting for hours a day. All the time you hear about it. While your skill has turned dry deserts into fertile farmland, Iran's leaders have managed to turn green farmland into dry deserts as their corrupt water mafia, let's call it the water mafia, causes droughts and empty riverbeds. They get rich, but they don't let the people have any of it. And then, of course, there's the key difference at the root of it all. While the Arab states have focused on becoming pillars of regional stability and world commerce, Iran's leaders have focused on stealing their people's wealth to fund terror and bloodshed abroad. Most tragic of all, they have dragged down an entire region with them. Countless lives were lost in the Iranian effort to maintain a crumbling regime in Syria. Look at what happened with Syria. In Lebanon, their Hezbollah proxies have pillaged the hopes of a nation whose capital, Beirut, was once called the Paris of the Middle East. Can you imagine? All of this misery and so much more was entirely avoidable, absolutely avoidable, and Mohammed knew that. He knew that. Smart people knew that. If only the Iranian regime had focused on building their nation up instead of tearing the region down. Yet I'm here today not merely to condemn the past chaos of Iran's leaders, but to offer them a new path and a much better path toward a far better and more hopeful future. As I've shown repeatedly, I am willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships for a better and more stable world, even if our differences may be very profound, which obviously they are in the case of Iran. I have never believed in having permanent enemies. I am different than a lot of people think. I don't like permanent enemies, but sometimes you need enemies to do the job, and you have to do it right. Enemies get you motivated. In fact, some of the closest friends of the United States of America are nations we fought wars against in generations past, and now they're our friends and our allies. I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before. If you know that, they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror, they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. But with that said, Iran can have a much brighter future, but will never allow America and its allies to be threatened with terrorism or nuclear attack. The choice is theirs to make. We really want them to be a successful country. We want them to be a wonderful, safe, great country, but they cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is an offer that will not last forever. The time is right now for them to choose. Right now, we don't have a lot of time to wait. Things are happening at a very fast pace. They're happening right here. They're happening at a very fast pace. So they have to make their move right now, one way or the other. Make your move. As I said in my inaugural address, my greatest hope is to be a peacemaker and to be a unifier. I don't like war. We have the greatest military, by the way, in the history of the world. You know, I rebuilt our military in my first 4 years and rebuilt it into the most powerful military there is. And you saw that when I knocked out ISIS in 3 weeks. People said it would take 4 years, 5 years. We did it in 3 weeks. Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. And I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully. And they both have very powerful leaders, very strong leaders, good leaders, smart leaders. And it all stopped. Hopefully it'll remain that way, but it all stopped. I was very proud of Marco Rubio and all of the people that worked so hard. Marco, stand up. What a great job you did on that. Thank you, J.D. Vance, Marco. The whole group worked with you, but it was a great job. And I think they're actually getting along. Maybe we can even get them together a little bit, Marco, where they go out and have a nice dinner together. Wouldn't that be nice? But we've come a long way, and that's could be, you know, millions of people could have died from that conflict that started off small and was getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. I've also been working relentlessly to end the terrible bloodshed between Russia and Ukraine, and very importantly, talks are being held in Turkey later this week, probably on Thursday, and they could produce some pretty good results. Our people are going to be going there. Marco's going to be going there. Others are going to be going, and we'll see if we can get it done. 5,000 people, young people for the most part, soldiers from Ukraine, soldiers from Russia. They're not from here and they're not from the United States, but they're souls. They're souls. I think usually, mostly, they're young, beautiful souls that left their parents waving goodbye, left their brothers and sisters. Goodbye, I'll see you soon. And they got blown to pieces. 5,000 on average a week are dying, and people are dying elsewhere in the region, but tremendous numbers like we haven't seen since World War II are dying, and I want to stop it. I want to stop it. It's a horrible war. Would have never happened if I were president. That's a war that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened if I were president, because Iran had no money to pay Hamas or anybody else. They had no money. They were not looking to take care of them. They had to take care of themselves. They had no money. We stopped their oil effectively with the embargoes and sanctions. But let me take this opportunity to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the constructive role that you've played in facilitating the Ukraine talks. And it really is, you've been amazing. You've made everything available to us. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if we get that settled, we'll pay a special tribute to what you've done. You really did lay a great groundwork. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The West should not be dragging itself backward into another endless war in Europe, yet another endless war. We should stop the killing and work together to address the biggest long-term threats as one unbeatable team. Think of us as an unbeatable team. I mean, when you look at what you've done here, that's much more difficult than stopping stupidity. Think of it. It's stupidity. What you've done is much more difficult, and you did it better than anybody else has ever done it. As President of the United States, my preference will always be for peace and partnership whenever those outcomes can be achieved. Always. It's always going to be that way. Only a fool would think otherwise. In recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with the notion that it's our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. They loved using our very powerful military, and now it's really the most powerful it's ever been. We just are getting a budget approved, $1 trillion, highest budget we've ever had in history for military, $1 trillion. And we're getting the greatest missiles, the greatest weapons. And, you know, I hate to do it, but you have to do it because we believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength, otherwise bad things could happen. But hopefully we'll never have to use any of those weapons. Seems to be an awfully big waste of money if you're never going to use them, but hopefully we'll never have to use them because the destructive power of some of those weapons are like nobody's seen before. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do. I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States or to help defend our allies. And there will be no mercy for any foe who tries to do us or them harm. We will have no mercy. They understand that. That's why I've been pretty lucky. A lot of people think, you know, he's looking to fight. He's looking to fight, and things get settled. It's an amazing thing when they really think you mean it. But we do. We have the greatest military, the strongest military, stronger than any. Nobody's even close. We have the best weapons in the world. But we don't want to use them. If you threaten America or our partners, however, then you'll be faced with overwhelming strength and devastating force. We have things that you don't even know about, you don't hear about. And if you did, you'd say, wow. In recent weeks following...
That's Donald Trump there in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, pouring praise upon the regime, saying the historic state visit celebrating an 80-year partnership, talking about a bedrock of security and prosperity, then detailing this incredible deal. A $142 billion arms deal has been completed with Saudi Arabia and the United States. We've also learned in this past hour that Starlink, of course, that is Elon Musk's internet, satellite-based internet. Elon Musk, you will notice there in the second row behind the Crown Prince there, Mohammed bin Salman. So now America has $142 billion worth of arms deal. It controls the internet in the sky. That means the internet across the region is now free of state censorship, and it cannot be interrupted by an act of war or any regime turning it off. That is massive news. Another piece of massive news was the talk about Iran. Iran, of course, the viper's nest of Islamism across the entire region, perhaps even the world. Donald Trump saying in no uncertain terms today, the Ayatollahs are a corrupt mafia causing droughts and despair. Iran's leaders have focused on stealing their nation's wealth and started wars. They enable misery that was entirely avoidable. But he said this, and this is massive. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. We will never allow them to terrorize us or the world ever again. The time for them to choose is now. One way or the other, make your move. My goal is to be a peacemaker. I don't like war, but absolutely laying down the glove to Iran. Back down or we will choke off, he said, quote, maximum massive impact. We will drive your oil out of existence and we will bankrupt your nation. Incredible stuff there. This is the first day of a four-leg whistle-stop tour of the Gulf region. And if you want to keep watching the rest of that astonishing speech, then you can do so by going to scan that QR code on your screen right now or go to GBN2 on our YouTube channel. History in the making there as Donald Trump aims to stabilise the entire Gulf region. Let's now get back to domestic politics, because in an exclusive sit-down interview with GB News' Chris Hope, Donald Trump's Secretary of State for Agriculture has questioned Sir Keir Starmer's inheritance tax raid on British farmers. Firebrand Brooke Rollins called them a problem that could close farms. And let's take a listen.
Our administration is hyper-focused on putting our farmers first, getting American agriculture to the world. So not fully understanding the dynamics here in the UK,
yes.
but my
we have
suggestion...
a similar debate here. Don't worry about it.
I would think that's right, but putting your farmers first and ensuring that the backbone of your country, whether it's America or UK or the EU or Canada or Mexico, you can't have true national security without food security.
Well, they're hiking taxes on these family farms. That's a big issue here.
That's right, and that's a problem. I mean,
are you worried about that?
100%. I think that anywhere in the world where you're increasing the cost of your input, obviously increasing the cost of taxes, increasing the cost of the land.
On farmers.
That's right. You're going to start closing your farms, and at that point, you begin to, outsource to, of course, America. We'd love to outsource.
Yes.
We're such great partners, but there are other partners in the world that maybe aren't the greatest partners for other reasons that we've got to be hyper-focused on.
It's an incredible interview with Brooke Rollins, with Chris Hope. You can watch that full interview at 7 p.m. on GBN Tonight with myself. I'm joined in the studio now by two farmers. I've got to say, they are beaming like Cheshire cats. Ollie Harrison and Clive Bailey. Of course, regular viewers of GB News will know these gentlemen as being part of the, what's now, I guess, become a slightly political movement, or at least a cohesive movement of British farmers. And, gentlemen, thanks for joining me in the studio. I know you're in London because you're always having meetings. You're always working behind the scenes, as well as working and toiling on the farm. You're toiling for farmers, always in the background. Ollie Harrison, could I get your initial reaction to the fact there that the US Secretary of State for Agriculture sounds like one of you boys?
It sounds like we wrote a speech, doesn't it? I just hope that now it's come from someone else, it won't fall on deaf ears. We've been banging this drum, and we've been saying that we need national food security. We need a domestic food policy that works. We need something to protect us from the ups and downs of the extremes of weather, just like the drought we're having at the moment. We need a reason to invest in the farms, which has now been taken away from us with the IHT. And the Americans get it. They're looking after their farmers. With the whole ethanol deal done last week, it is another blow to us, kneecapped again. A market loss to us. Wheat produces ethanol. Ethanol is used in fuels, and that market was taken away from us in a deal. Yet the Americans are standing up for us, going, you need to look looking after your own farmers, which is what we've been saying all along.
Clive Bailey, in fact, when that trade deal was struck last week, you and I were on the show together. I got your immediate reaction. You were very concerned about things like cheap American beef flooding the market, perhaps hormone-enhanced, perhaps chlorinated chicken, although if you watch the full interview later on tonight, you might have your mind put at rest. I don't want to spoil Chris Hope's exclusive, but on the point of ethanol, you were concerned that British farming would be struggling to compete against America. And yet here we have a Secretary of State for Agriculture saying that they understand the pain of inheritance tax raise. They understand the fact it could put you guys out of business. Begs the question, if the Americans get it, why don't British politicians?
Yeah, well, it'd be good to swap her for our Ag Minister, wouldn't it, right now? She seems to actually understand how important farming is and the importance of that food security issue. The ethanol issue, as we were talking about last week, I don't think people really understand fully. I mean, why would you? That it's a major part of our fuel, the E10 in fuel, that's 10% bioethanol. That's something that makes our fuel more sustainable and reduce its carbon footprint, and it's an important market for UK farmers. There's 2 factories that produce it in the northeast. I think jobs are at risk at both those factories, thanks to what they gave away in that trade deal, and an important market for kind of well over 1 million tonnes of wheat a year, kind of large percentage of the UK crop, but puts the bottom in our wheat prices. It is all but gone. Importantly as well, it's that carbon footprint. The bioethanol's reduced to kind of help the sustainability of the fuel, but importing something that reduces carbon footprint. The imported bioethanol has a much higher carbon footprint than UK produced, so it kind of defeats the point as well. So the Americans seem to understand this, but our politicians just don't seem to get it right now. They need to start listening. OK, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. We've got a packed new schedule. Thank you so much for coming in today, Ollie Harrison and Clive Bailey, an unlikely ally perhaps found over the pond. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, moving on, the Nissan will shut 7 factories and cut 20,000 global jobs to battle falling profits.
And it also puts the future of 6,000 jobs in Sunderland, of course, at risk, certainly under the spotlight. We can now speak with the Labour MP for Sunderland Central, Lewis Atkinson, MP. Lewis, welcome to the show. So obviously a huge part of British industry, and certainly in your constituency, Nissan, a vital piece of British industry. We initially this morning were concerned that there might be job impacts in your constituency in Sunderland, but now we understand there could be something of a Brexit bonus.
You know, you're right to say this is a huge deal for the North East, and Sunderland's long been the most efficient, productive car plant in the UK, and something we're really proud of. So this is a global announcement made by Nissan, in particular as a result of falling sales, as I understand it, in China. And, you know, the global economic uncertainty we've seen just makes it more important that the government is sticking up for British industry and car making. We had the Chancellor here on Friday talking about investment in the new gigafactory that we're building, £1 billion there. So, you know, I think it's a global announcement, but I expect to see us making cars in Sunderland for a long time in the future.
And we understand around about 2:20 earlier on today, the CEO of Nissan, that's Ivan Espinosa, he announced to the world's media that they'll be increasing the production of electric vehicles in Sunderland, which no doubt will come as a huge relief to you, come as a huge relief to 6,000 employees there. And I put it to you, could this be the second Brexit bonus that Sir Keir Starmer has had in the past week? First of all, we were front of the queue at Donald Trump's trade deal because we were able to negotiate without being tied to the 27 member states. And now it seems that Nissan are thinking about relocating production to Brexit Britain, presumably because they're about to put heavier tariffs on the European Union.
Well, the government's been clear that we need to make Brexit work, and the previous government clearly failed to do that. It failed to get the trade deals over the line. That this government has done so. And what you're seeing through our trade deals, through the modern industrial strategy that I expect to see announced in the next month, that will have advanced manufacturing, including automotive, at its absolute core, is a government determined to stand by the British car industry. That was really important for Jaguar Land Rover in the Midlands last week. It's really important for Nissan today. And, you know, we've got working people up and down the country who can be reassured that they've got a government on their side landing these sorts of deals.
Well, Lewis Atkinson, a lot of car manufacturers tell GBNews, in fact, outside of the United Kingdom, they could really be handed a lifeline if only governments such as the Labour Party would drop the punitive net zero policies. If only you weren't taxing manufacturers to make diesel or petrol cars, let's face it, the kind of cars that most consumers want. If only you dropped those taxes, if only you'd listen to the manufacturers or listen to the public, you could really throw Nissan a lifeline by axing Ed Miliband's punitive net zero targets.
It's rubbish because Nissan say that they want to build all electric cars in Sunderland. That's their plan. That's what the CEO announced today. We've got thousands of jobs in the North East reliant on the next generation of manufacturing, and that is EVs. The government has done the right thing by adjusting the EV mandate as requested by the car manufacturers. But it's another example of how, as we equip Britain for the future economy, it's ours to win. We've got to have those jobs here. I don't want them in China. Don't want them anywhere else. That's what the government's doing.
Do you think it's fair, Lewis Atkinson, to force working-class people who own petrol cars and diesel cars, who can't afford or perhaps don't even want an electric car, is it fair for governments like yours to outlaw their cars in the future and make them buy things they can ill afford and don't want?
There is a long time before anyone has been forced to do anything. What we'll see is manufacturers adjusting their plans, manufacturers like Nissan adjusting their plans. They will only be building electric cars because that's the right thing to do. And prices have and will be falling in the future. That's what's creating the jobs here and maintaining jobs here in Sunderland. And that's what, you know, something is to be proud of.
OK, well, thank you very much for joining us, and I really do hope that Nissan in Sunderland has been thrown that lifeline. I wish you the very, very best of luck with that and to your constituents and those 6,000 workers there. And also thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us today. That's Lewis Atkinson, the Member of Parliament for Sunderland Central. Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. Now, coming up, Keir Starmer has faced backlash once again, this time from the left, for saying that Britain is becoming an island of strangers. Is he right? Actually, are we already an island of strangers? That's what our next guest thinks. You won't want to miss that with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 5:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has defended the language used by Sir Keir Starmer yesterday in a speech to unveil plans to cut immigration. Now, this comes amid the Prime Minister's comments yesterday, calling the UK an island of strangers without stricter controls in place. Well, are we already an island of strangers? Certainly in many towns. That's the question I'm going to put now to my next guest. I'm joined by the social policy analyst, great friend of the show, Dr. Rakib Ehsan. Welcome to the show, Rakib. Always a pleasure. I put it to you that the political left are clutching their pearls about something that's already happening in many, many parts of Britain. Indigenous people born in Britain, particularly the white working classes, already tell us all the time they feel like strangers in their own island.
No, absolutely. And I think that a lot of people have complained about the language used by the Prime Minister in that speech on immigration. I suspect much of the British public would actually agree with that sentiment and would also think that the language was appropriate. Now, in recent times, we've witnessed unprecedented levels of immigration from parts of the world where the prevailing social and cultural norms are vastly different to those which are mainstream here in the UK. And you've quite rightly mentioned, Martin, that in certain parts of the country, there's very intense forms of segregation along ethnic and religious lines, socially, educationally, economically, and residentially, overlapping forms of segregation. So while you have communities living side by side, they could be limited to no meaningful social interaction. So in terms of being an island of strangers, I wouldn't purely blame that on immigration, by the way. I think that over time we've become a more individualistic society, whether it's the church, trade unions. They used to be vibrant hubs of social interaction. They've declined over time. So are we an island of strangers? I think we're certainly headed in that direction for sure, if we're not already there.
And the data supports that. There was a report out in March, 2021 census data, so I expect actually 4 years later it's even more exemplified. 1 million people in England cannot speak English well or at all. And in certain parts of the country, for example, in parts of Leicester, 43% of those over 16, so those coming into the country, speak little or no English. It's the same in Pendle, in Oldham, in Bradford, in Burnley, in Blackburn. And you'll note from those towns, Dr. Rakib Hassan, there is a pattern. And it is what you're saying there, along ethnicity and also along religious divides. This is happening already.
No, absolutely. And for a very long time, our immigration system has failed to prioritise English language proficiency the way it should have. And I think that's a very serious problem. I think that having a solid command of the English language enables social integration, making headway in the labour market, and also connecting to the host country in a civic and cultural sense too. I think that the real problem we have here is that the level of immigration has meant that there's this constant population churn, where you have in the 2021 census, it was revealed that at the northern part of Leicester city centre, more than 3 in 5 residents had arrived in Leicester up to the 10 years leading up to the census, just in the last decade, which is quite remarkable. And I think that with that rapid population change, what you need is a stable national membership if you truly care about social trust and mutual respect. And it's very difficult to do that if you have an immigration system which is defined by a lack of quality and quantity control.
Rakib, the measures made yesterday, the noises made by the Prime Minister, by Downing Street, having to have degree level, having to speak English, limiting numbers coming in, do you think that will have any tangible impact on the situation in the short to near term? Or actually, do you think we've gone so far down this route now that Britain, the fabric of many parts of Britain, is perhaps forever changed?
I think there needs to be more radical action. I think that while the Prime Minister made the right noises in his speech, if you dig into the white paper, in my view, unfortunately, this is just tinkering around the edges. He talked a great deal about integration, but if we are serious about integration in that white paper, there would be provisions prioritising migrants who originate from stable English-speaking democracies. At the moment, we have large-scale migration from unstable parts of the world. I think that the cultural impact, people are very comfortable talking about the economic impacts of immigration. I think it's very important to talk about wage compression for lower-paid Britons, the lack of training opportunities because of that addiction to cheap foreign labour. But we need to talk about the cultural impacts. And the reality is immigration is a national security issue. And the fact that the term extremism didn't feature once in a 76-page white paper on immigration reform, in my view, is a very serious problem.
Dr. Rakib Hassan, I could talk to you all day, I really could, but I'm afraid we've ran out of time. Thank you so much once again for your expertise joining us here on GB News. That's a social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Hassan. Thank you for your time. Now, plenty more to come throughout the rest of this show, including a visit to Britain's first Reform UK pub. Look at it. It's the Talbot. It's up there in Blackpool. I'll be joining the landlords next, but if you're travelling home, either from work or from school, here is your traffic and travel update. Stick around.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. M74 Junction 2A southbound is closed due to an incident. Consider alternative routes. On the M4 westbound at Junction 38, Margam, resurfacing has closed the exit slip road with diversions in place. Greater London's M11 southbound exit slip at Junction 4 has one lane closed due to a police incident, causing 20-minute delays. Southampton's M27 westbound faces congestion with lane closures between Junctions 7 and 5. And on the trains, Cross Country and Elna face significant disruptions between Durham and Newcastle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Scattered downpours are breaking out across much of southern England and South Wales, but for many it is a dry rest of Tuesday with warm spells of sunshine as higher pressure builds back in again from the north. This low pressure briefly edged north to give quite a few thunderstorms in places during the last couple of days, and any showers that we are seeing develop through the afternoon across South Wales into central southern England will tend to fade away into the evening. A few showers continuing for parts of Cornwall, notably towards the far southwest, one or two perhaps making an appearance into South Devon. We've also got thickening cloud into northeast England, parts of Scotland with some drizzly showers here. Otherwise it's a dry and clear night for most. A fresh start to Wednesday, but plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly through Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southern England. But we do have some showers affecting Cornwall, South Devon during the start of the day, the early commute. And for Wales, the Midlands, Northern England, Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine. But as we edge further north, we do run into this area of cloud across central Scotland, the southeast of Scotland as well as the northeast of England. Some drizzle associated with this, and it will stick around for the first few hours of the day before eventually lifting and tending to retreat back to the North Sea coast, all the while tending to sink south so that parts of Lincolnshire and Norfolk may well be affected by low cloud lapping onto the shore by the afternoon. Showers become fewer and further between into the southwest, so for most it's dry and sunny afternoon with temperatures in the south 23 to 24 Celsius, further north mid to high teens. Then we go into Wednesday evening with the low cloud across the North Sea pushing back inland for a time to affect parts of eastern England, but again that will retreat back on Thursday and into Friday. Plenty of sunshine developing, and in fact it is a dry and settled outlook with high pressure in charge.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It is 5:39. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, just a reminder, you catch Patrick Christie's Tonight live from Calais. Yes, our man has gone into the jungle. And that's from 9 p.m. here on GB News. Patrick Christie's doing the journalism from the front line. Patrick, stay safe. That's from 9 p.m. here on GB News. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer pledged to slash immigration significantly yesterday. Well, next Monday, he's tipped to surrender to Brussels and introduce a youth mobility scheme. Now, that could mean millions of low-skilled 18 to 34-year-olds flooding into Britain on 3-year work visas. Does that sound to you like taking back control? Well, join me now in the studio as the Director of Strategy at the Prosperity Institute, Fred de Fossard. Fred, welcome to the show. People are calling it a surrender summit. Is that a bit harsh, or are you a bit concerned about what could happen between Keir Starmer and Ursula von der Leyen next Monday?
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been reading a little bit about the reset, and I think Surrender Summit is pretty accurate. There's a debate happening in Parliament right now where the Conservatives tabled a motion, which Reform UK seemed to support as well, criticising this Surrender Summit for essentially handing over control of regulations for food standards, for agriculture, for farming rules, for product standards as well, and even a lot of energy policy like the price of industrial carbon, which affects all British industries, to the European Union. And not only that, it'll be overseen by the European Court of Justice, that European politicised court whose jurisdiction we escaped from in 2021, and now we're going straight back in.
A lot of people were scratching their heads and thinking, hang on a minute, I voted to leave the European Union. How can we even be having these kind of conversations today? And more to the point, is there not an absolute sort of dichotomy, a hypocrisy? Yesterday, we're going to take back control of our borders. On Monday, we're going to give away control to Brussels.
Absolutely. It is so incoherent. And we see this with so many things this government is doing. They have this misinformed idea that trade between Britain and Europe has collapsed since Brexit, which is not true. If you look at trade and services, which is the most important part of British economy, it's done really, really well. Even legal services, high-value exports like ours, are booming. But even goods trade has held up OK, and food trade as well. But instead, they've decided that because there's a small amount of customs processes on British exports going to the European Union, we now need to surrender regulatory independence and do a thing called dynamic alignment. That means if the EU changes its rules, we have to change our rules with them.
In lockstep. And Fred, something that Remainers never quite understood why Brexiteers cared so much about is fishing. Fishing quotas is something tangible, and that is up for negotiation again. And we're understood today, Fred de Fossard, to learn that it's going to be potentially a 4-year deal with France for us to even begin to negotiate things like being part of arms deals.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. So, for one, the European Union has always wanted British fishing waters. They've wanted that for decades. And one of the things they hate about Brexit is the fact that we can now control who can come into our waters and who cannot. Remember, they tried to turn off the electricity to Jersey when we refused French fishing licences a few years ago. So their way of using blackmail is classic, and it's classic of the French, unfortunately. And this defence deal is not necessarily a benefit to Britain. Britain has a superb defence industry that creates some of the best technology in the world. This defence fund would force British defence companies and Britain to follow EU defence policy in order to get a small slice of the deal. So no fish is worth it, but also we shouldn't sign this deal anyway because, again, it's surrendering our own democratic politics to European priorities.
And, of course, we were told, Fred, that the European army was a dangerous fantasy by Nick Clegg back in 2015, and here we are. Seems to be a dangerous reality. I digress. The point about this is that the Brexit that we thought we got under the previous government, a lot of people said, myself included, it's still left open the cat flap. It's still tied us in on key things like fishing, on defence, on taxation. And here we are again. Is there any hope that this could be reversed? What's going on in this debate at the moment, for example? What are they saying about the proposals that could happen on Monday?
Yeah, so I think this can be reversed, thankfully. I mean, the most important thing to remember is the European Union economy itself is doing really badly. Mario Draghi did a report which said the European economic model is broken. And it is. Europe is not creating businesses. It's not innovating anymore. So why would we want to realign? Instead, we need to embrace trade and deregulation. That's greater trade with allies like the United States, greater trade with the Pacific Rim nations, and most importantly, domestic deregulation so we can compete with Europe and make Britain richer.
Now, of course, Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour Party, would say that it's important we are stronger together with our closest trading partner. Geographically, they would say it makes sense to be defensively aligned, particularly with the threat in Ukraine. But I think a lot of people think we could do that, rightly so, without having to be a member of a club that many people thought we left back in 2016. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Fred Fossard, Director of the Strategy, the Prosperity Institute. And just a reminder, the Prosperity Institute is owned by the Legatum Group, and the Legatum Group is also one of the lead investors in the holding company of GBNews. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here's the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello. Some heavy showers through this week over central parts of the Mediterranean, affecting Sicily, Sardinia, and also at times the Balearics. Things have cooled off a little bit across Greece and Turkey. The wind's coming down from the north, but plenty of fine spring sunshine over the Greek islands through Wednesday. There are the showers drifting northwards, affecting Sardinia, and increasingly over Mallorca and Minorca. Plenty of sunshine, though, for the Canaries. Sunny skies, too, across the Algarve. Heavy showers inland across northern Spain should ease later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or GBNews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A very good morning to you. And if you're planning to visit one of Britain's many beauty spots next bank holiday or Easter weekend, beware of your car.
Yeah, a rising number of tourist attractions are banning coaches and some cars to help ease overcrowding.
We're here to debate if vehicles should be stopped from parking near attractions. Government Relations Manager at the Countryside Alliance, David Bean, and founder of Fair Fuel UK campaign, Howard Cox. Good morning to you both.
David, how much of a problem are tourists when there are too many of them and they bring their great camper vans and they park all their cars in a line so you actually can't see the beauty spot you went to see?
It can be a significant problem in certain areas. I'm in Scotland for the holidays, and particularly in areas such as the Highlands and Islands, there are areas that have very, very badly been affected. Even some camper vans end up getting taken out to certain places on the islands and then just abandoned after a holiday is finished.
Honestly, this is horses for courses, and to be fair, you know, I actually do believe that we need better signage, better planning, and Cameron hit the nail on the head. You can't get to these beauty spots unless you have some sort of transport to get there. And, you know, public transport is woeful across the country in these areas. Obviously, yesterday in the Berlin Gap one, you can't legislate for idiots. It needs better signage, better information, but if you take people away from it, you take income away from the community. You know, I think any organisation that's promoting a beauty spot that's making money out of it should be paying for better signage, better parking facilities, etc. I do not like the idea of cars being, you know, queuing up illegally, you could say. That's ridiculous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:48 on this glorious afternoon. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now then, Britain's first ever Reform UK pub has opened up in Blackpool. It's named the Talbot, and it's ran by Pete Flynn and Nick Lowe, as you can see on your screens there. And it's fair to say it's caused quite a stir on social media. Some people love it. Some people are foaming at the mouth. Is it a good idea, and would you go there? Well, let's cross live and speak with the co-owners of the pub, Pete Flynn. Pete, welcome to the show. So I can see you're busily serving booze there to people in the Talbot. Tell us, what inspired you to start Britain's first ever Reform UK pub?
Well, it had to be a Labour club built first. It had to be a Conservative club first. So we wanted to be the first Reform club because we're both Reform members. We know exactly what's going on. We love Nigel Farage. So, fantastic.
Is it fair to say, Pete, that only Reform voters would be welcome in there? For example, if Jeremy Corbyn walked into a pub, there's probably a joke in that somewhere. If Jeremy Corbyn walked into a pub, would you serve him?
He'd have to have his picture taken first and pay twice the price.
You charge Jeremy Corbyn twice the price. On a serious point, you're absolutely right. There are loads of Conservative clubs around the country, Labour clubs. There are Labour pubs. There's one called the Bread and Roses in London. I've been to it. No problem with it. But I tell you what, people on social media seem to have quite a problem with the fact there's a Reform UK pub. They're calling it a den of racism, a place that shouldn't be allowed to happen. What are they so angry about?
Well, there's no racism in it, I can assure you that. We're just positive. We want best for what the country is. We want to get the kids into dentists. We want to get the kids into doctors, surgeries. We want to stop the boats. We want reform. And everyone that's speaking to me is telling me the same stories over and over again.
So Pete, is it the kind of pub where you be holding political events? Is it pure politics, or is it just politics with is it beer and pints with a side order of politics? Is it a recruitment centre? Is it membership only? Tell us more.
It's not membership only. We are a pub. Anybody and everybody's welcome. If you want a side order of politics with your pint, I'm happy to help.
And how long have you been open, and what's the reaction been with locals there in Blackpool?
The signs went up. Me and my business partner put them up weekend. So Monday was the first day, and we're only on Tuesday now. And I'm on the telly.
And how many punters you got in? What's the price of a pint? Let's get down to the brass tacks.
Oh, we're currently, because of this, put any 2 pints, including Stella, for £6. We're running a promotion through all of May.
£2?
For any 2 pints.
£6 for 2 pints of Stella. Have you got a helicopter? Yeah. On a serious point, that is like, less than the price of 1 pint down here. I've got a couple of funny questions I want to read you from some GBNews viewers. One person here, I think they're not too into your idea. They say this: Pete Flynn, do you only serve gammon?
We serve gammon with 2 large duck eggs, and it's the best gammon in Blackpool.
Gammon and eggs. And there's another question here. Do you serve pints of Remainer tears?
Yes, is the answer.
Do you know what, Pete Flynn? I don't normally give out business advice, but I think if you did have a microbrewery and you gave it a name, Remainer Tears, I think they would fly out the door. Look, it's dividing the nation. It's got us talking. You're up and running. Maybe the first of many. Thank you very, very much for joining us today on the show. That's Pete Flynn there, with some regulars at the Talbots. And it's an interesting point. Thank you very much for joining us. Isn't it an interesting point how, as I said, nobody's got any problem with there being a Conservative club. They're all over the shop. Who cares? People go there to be with their political soulmates. They go there for subsidised bars. And, yeah, there's a bit of politics. Same with the Labour Party. No problem whatsoever. But the very first time the Reform Party introduces its first pub, there's a huge social media backlash. I say good luck to anybody who's starting a pub in this day and age when they're all blooming well closing down. Put your politics to one side, lift a pint. And talking of raising a glass, let's all raise a glass now to the queen of primetime politics debate. It's Michelle Dewberry. Up next is Jubes & Co. Michelle, what's on your menu?
Hello, Martin. I was absolutely gripped to that last conversation that you guys were having. That pub looks absolutely fabulous. I would quite like it. I used to have some right fantastic times in Blackpool, so I did as a teenage girl, I can tell you. Well, I can't tell you, actually, because what goes on in Blackpool, quite frankly, stays in Blackpool. Coming up on Jubes & Co tonight, there's lots that we need to discuss. Can you imagine being behind bars, ladies and gents, for nearly 4 decades, knowing that you were innocent? The truth will set you free, of course. I'm speaking about the man that just had his conviction for murder quashed. Let's look at that. How do you move on? Also, Keir Starmer, is he really like Enoch Powell? Do people need to get a grip? And cannabis stickers on lampposts? What? See you in a sec.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Scattered downpours are breakout across much of southern England and South Wales, but for many it is a dry rest of Tuesday with warm spells of sunshine as higher pressure builds back in again from the north. This low pressure briefly edged north to give quite a few thunderstorms in places during the last couple of days, and any showers that we are seeing develop through the afternoon across South Wales into central southern England will tend to fade away into the evening. A few showers continuing for parts of Cornwall, notably towards the far southwest, one or two perhaps making an appearance into South Devon. We've also got thickening cloud into northeast England, parts of Scotland with some drizzly showers here. Otherwise it's a dry and clear night for most. A fresh start to Wednesday, but plenty of sunshine first thing, certainly through Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southern England. But we do have some showers affecting Cornwall, South Devon during the start of the day, the early commute. And for Wales, the Midlands, Northern England, Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine. But as we edge further north, we do run into this area of cloud across central Scotland, the southeast of Scotland, as well as the northeast of England. Some drizzle associated with this, and it will stick around for the first few hours of the day before eventually lifting and tending to retreat back to the North Sea coast, all the while tending to sink south so that parts of Lincolnshire and Norfolk may well be affected by low cloud lapping onto the shore by the afternoon. Showers become fewer and further between into the southwest, so for most it's a dry and sunny afternoon with temperatures in the south 23 to 24 Celsius, further north mid to high teens. Then we go into Wednesday evening with the low cloud across the North Sea pushing back inland for a time to affect parts of eastern England, but again that will retreat back on Thursday and into Friday. Plenty of sunshine developing, and in fact it is a dry and settled outlook with high pressure in charge.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M1 southbound in Leicestershire has a broken down vehicle, closing one lane between junctions 22 and 21. Traffic should resume shortly. On the A34 northbound in Oxfordshire, a breakdown has closed one lane. The M4 westbound at junction 38 Margam has resurfacing work, closing the exit Slip Road and Hard Shoulder. Diversions are in place. The A95 eastbound at Bridge of Avon faces restrictions due to roadworks, causing extended travel times. And on the trains, cross-country and Elna disruptions continue between Durham and Newcastle, with additional effects at Peterborough. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You